Really Big Show with Jim Check and Ian Burns.
Good morning, all. That music gets me jacked every time. I mean, it's such a great music. It's like you're saddling up your horse and getting ready to ride out there. And our headline today, Judgment Day. Truth fights back against lies and deception. There is signs that truth is like starting to smash the lies and the narratives right in the face. Like, I mean, there's some stuff there that's just like truth is coming to slap some of these lies around. And I think people are starting to see some of the reality. And some of that reality is going to be tough for some people to take as they've lived through this fallacy, these lies, for like over a decade of it. And part of that is the loony's sick right now. The loony ails. We've been talking about it on this show for a while now, that the Canadian loony. And if the loony falls, the reality for many, many Canadians is going to be very, very harsh, as inflation will drive prices higher because most commodities and foods are priced in USD. So that's not good. That's not good. And there is a message of hope. You have a choice to take on the message of hope or take on the message of hate. We're going to show you the people that are bringing the message of hate and show you the people that are bringing the message of hope. And so you have a choice. You have a choice who you listen to. We've had Richard Diaz on the show, though. Richard Diaz, financial guy, smart guy, and the Globe and Mail puts out, Canadian dollar falls as speculators raise bearish bets to the highest this year. You can leave it up for a second. But, you know, he just says blatantly, I'm sorry, but it has to be said, the editor-journalist of Globe and Mail might be least informed, least, as Ian would say, incurious people in Canadian history. For crying out loud, ask somebody why Canada faces secular stagnation because of party hell-bent on implementing childish anti-growth policies. Wow. Does that sound like the theme of this show?
Hey, sounds like the theme of the last 11 years, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that's it right there. And Ian and I beat this drum, and we beat it continually, and we bring people like Richard Diaz, I believe his name is pronounced, right? Diaz on. Canada faces secular stagnation because of a party hell-bent on implementing childish anti-growth policies. That's the Liberals and the NDP summed up right there. Nicely done, Richard. Nicely done. And
I'm also glad that he capitalized party. It's got capital P there because it really is the party. It's the only party we have, really, isn't it? It's the regime party.
And they've had quite the party. And Canadians are facing the hangover while they still party. Well, right now, the walls may be crumbling around them, though, as they face some of the realities, though. Even the Financial Post out here, from our Canadian dollar hits fresh 2026 lows as currency buffeted by several headwinds, and that's from the National Bank of Canada. What would those headwinds be? Anti-energy policies? And the sad thing is, we talk about it on the show all the time. The amount of riches beneath our feet and just the pushback against our own prosperity. And in a time that Canada should be shining, we're going to show you proof that it is kind of even trying to poke through. Like the green shoots are coming up. But nothing but the NDPs and the Liberals trying to smash them back down as Canadians go without. Too many Canadians going without. But the truth shall set them free. And that's what they need to push back with here. And this is James Thorne. We got to get him on here. He says Canadian dollar looks sick. We've been saying that for a while. And he said the recent softness in the Canadian dollar is not a transient fluctuation. And I think the Bank of Canada is going to do their rate decision tomorrow. God help us if they, I know they're going to stand pat, but I mean, there's talk that, you know, like they're going to raise rates because of inflation. In a stagnant economy, raise rates and see what happens. But it's not, I mean, this economy is being, I wouldn't say the word manipulated downward, but pushed downward because of failed policies. Policy failure that's still rampant here. Climate ideology that still drives this Liberal Party, still drives the NDP party. And just globalist ideals, which have not done, I don't know of any nation, can you think of any nation that has done well from globalist policies other than the UN itself, from taking money from each nation, We're going to hear from Avi Lewis later. I mean, what he has to say should just scare the crap right out of you.
I mean, the examples that people would if you were being serious there, the examples that you would hear would be something like Ireland. If we're talking about modern economies, modern countries, people would say Ireland. But Ireland, as everybody knows, even the Irish know, the Irish released 2 sets of books. One based on the money laundering or the tax haven status of the country, because all the American companies use Ireland as their tax entry into that market, so it inflates the GDP like crazy. So the Irish released that data, but then they also release like reality data, which is based on the real economy. But then you could also look at things like house prices in Dublin and the rest of Ireland. I don't know if that's like a great success for Ireland. But maybe, I don't know, maybe somewhere like Singapore, some like little city-state somewhere. I mean, one country that certainly benefited, and it's not so much a country as an organization, I'd say the Chinese Communist Party has benefited from globalization, obviously.
But by not doing it, by allowing other people to do it.
Yeah, by taking the piss out of it, basically. By not reciprocating, by just running a sort of command economy, overproducing, dumping in markets, killing competition, taking over countries, and then sealing off your own market, and also manipulating your currency, hoarding critical materials, and so I mean, God's sake, what do they not do? But in a sense, yeah, it's kind of benefited them.
It has benefited them by not doing it. And this is James again, and because the tale of the two nations right now, the American economy, we showed you that many times, it's on a launch pad. And the Canadian economy is more on the spaceports pad. And we're going to show you that later. We got a receipt there for you too on the spaceports pad, just a lot of nothingness. And he's saying there is no bubble. I mean, the American economy is going great guns. I mean, even the Financial Post picked it up. Caterpillar, the stock. I mean, it's why Caterpillar stock's taken off? Because there's bulldozers out in the fields, plowing, pushing, building AI data centers and a whole lot more, building new factories, everything. And just a lot of good stuff happening in the United States. A lot of good stuff, a lot of capital going to the United States. We showed you that too, even from the Chinese Bloomberg saying that most nations want to put capital into play in the United States. Here's the Pembina Institute, which is weird. The global energy shift is on, and once countries shift to renewables, they can't go back. But here in Canada, government's still acting, nothing's changed. Like, what? And that's the next slide there. And then Brett Wilson there, former Dragon Den there. Again, this is a narrative, but the reality of the situation is completely different than those narratives there, right?
I mean, you have to laugh. What other response? What other response can you offer when people are coming out with stuff like this? You just have to laugh. They're telling you, don't believe your eyes. Don't believe the words you see written. Don't believe the images. Don't believe the data. Don't look at Germany's energy output, industrial output, Germany's economy even. Don't do that. Don't look at Britain, country that's gone all in on this. Don't do that. Just believe us. Believe us when we say that there's a global energy shift happening. All right, where? What does it look like? How's it working out? I mean, all you can do is laugh. I'm sorry, it's like an exhausted giggle. That's all I can give them.
And here in sadness here in Canada, Canadians spend more on taxes than they do on food. That's the situation here in Canada. We're going to show you some evidence later that they even want to tax you more as you age out. Canadian taxes, and that groceries and essentials benefit that they're trumpeting. Some media outlets, other than just us, are now saying, oh, look, who actually gets it? Who actually gets it? Because a family of two making over 70,000 K, I think the number 60, whatever, close to 70K, gets zero. And can a family of two with 2 kids afford to give tax money so that they're given to people? And they take it away from them. They take tax money off. They take food off the table of a family making $70,000 to give it to somebody else so that they can stand at the podium. And a lot of the people they're giving it to don't deserve it. They're rejected asylum claimants. A lot of them are in the underground economy as they play the game. And Canadians suffer. But here's the biggest reality that's about to slap all the elbows up crowds in the face. Mark Carney and the Liberals realizing that the trade deal with the United States is all important. How did it take a year to come to this realization? Mark Carney's talk of uniting middle powers such as Canada in opposition to U.S. dominance is colliding with the stubborn reality, Judgment Day. According to a new article from Reuters, the reality is that access to American markets remains a crucial part of Canada's appeal to prospective trading partners. Yeah, most people that want to come and manufacture in Canada, why? To sell into the United States. According to Reuters, Canadian officials told the news outlet that the main draw for many potential trading partners is the prospect of gaining tariff-free access to the world's largest market through CUSMA. Underline that with a highlighter and scribble around it, scratch it a few times. Why did Mark Carney and the Liberals and the CBC and CTV and Global not understand this? How many Canadians suffering at home on unemployment and uncertainty, not making their mortgage payments or their rent payments because of the, what's the word there? The hauteur of the Liberal Party to gain power and prominence here in Canada. They used people, drove fear and with fear and rhetoric and just the politics of fear. The politics of fear is the magic weapon of the Liberal Party.
Also, the sort of cynical, shameless exploitation of patriotism and national loyalty, and a successful attempt, I should say, at portraying the opposition as unpatriotic and disloyal, while promoting themselves as the true patriots. Just the most extraordinary cynicism and, very, very sort of old-fashioned politics. And, very illiberal politics. The kind of politics that after the Second World War, people said they were never going to mess around with again. Like, we're not going to do this again. People like Louise Arbour, the venerated Louise Arbour, and Mark Carney in his speech yesterday. It's what they said that they reject, and it's all about internationalism. It's all about the whole world, and, nationalism just gave us so much trouble in the 20th century. And yet, that's precisely what they've done. The Liberals have done that, and we all have lost out as a consequence. And it's no coincidence, is it, that, Reuters, it was bought by a Canadian company, obviously, 20 years ago or whatever it is, but, that's basically a British news agency, Reuters. The next story that we're going to cover, which is almost the same subject, is the Financial Times. In the past, when we've talked about this and we've cited articles, it's also been Bloomberg, which is an American news corporation. Where's our media? Where's the Canadian media? Here we are more than a year later, more than a year after you and I have been saying exactly this. That's how long we've been saying this for. It's hard to believe that it's been that long, but that's how long we've been saying this stuff for. And still, where's the Globe and Mail on this? Canada's great, glorious Globe and Mail, the finest newspaper in Canada. Where are they? Where's CTV, the most popular news organization or news outlet in Canada? They are they're delinquent. That's what they are. They're negligent. It's a dereliction of duty. They haven't done their job. And I really hope that in some sort of, that cosmic justice is forthcoming and that they suffer for that, because they just haven't even come close to doing their job. And they've contributed to us getting into this giant pile of misery.
They've fed that fear and rhetoric by amplifying the Liberal talking points. And the one that shares most of the blame is the one that takes tax dollars. I guess they all do, but the CBC takes tax dollars from all Canadians, food, money they can't afford to give. They've taken $1.6 billion this year out of your pocket, money you can't afford to give, and they fed you a diet of lies and narratives that go against the truth, and they push fear and rhetoric into the heart of people, and And the biggest ones that made the biggest sacrifice in all this is our Canadian youth with high unemployment, disenchanted, disenfranchised. They've done this. They have a big atonement coming, and hopefully most of that is by defunding, and they have to earn their own money the hard way, like we do. Earn it the hard way by being the voice of the people.
It's a civilizational imperative. It's not even just about something as like lowbrow as taxes and things like that. It's like, oh, what's my money been spent? It's not even like, it's way beyond that. This is like, do you want a functioning civilization? If the answer is yes, stop this with the Canadian media. Stop subsidizing them. Stop tolerating this mediocrity and this garbage from the Canadian media. And if you don't choose to try and have a successful media, then you don't expect this country to work. Don't expect to have a healthy, vibrant country with a sort of functional political and economic system. Don't expect those things, because you really do need scrutiny of power. That's what that is. We're not just talking about media personalities and things like that. We're talking about power being held to account, which is the whole basis of this system that we have. This democratic system, this liberal with a small L, political system.
And also, how many times do you believe in your spouse that lies to you, constantly cheats on you, belittles you, and exploits you? You keep saying, oh, I'll give it another shot, give it another shot. Like, how stupid can you be? Because now Carney willing to accept tougher conditions from U.S. to get trade access, and that's according to the Financial Times. You just highlighted that. He's now trying to get closer to the U.S. after more than a year giving the country the cold shoulder. Not even like, he was sticking a stick in their eye. That's very polite.
Cold soldier is members of the Canadian military in the Arctic without proper sleeping bags. So that's the cold soldier. But the cold shoulder is what Mark Carney's been given to the Americans.
And Canada remains frozen out of talks over CUSMA. This hauteur, and I think Ian coined it, what is it, like 6 months ago? Hauteur that they display steady. Jolie, one of the biggest hauteurs, she has a lot of responsibility in this. She has a lot of responsibility from killing a deal that should have been. There's Canadians at home right now suffering, and families suffering because of their hauteur, and they don't suffer. They're jetting around, lapping up like expensive meals on planes and spending the tax dollars, and 13, we're going to talk about it later, 13 VPs in Alto. What a scam. We got so much truth to show you today, and truth will set us free. And spread this truth far and wide. Hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, get this out to as many people as you can, because there's a lot of people saying that channels like this are suppressed by none other than the government trying to make sure that there is social cohesion. They don't like truth. They don't like truth getting out there. Social cohesion is all important, right? Or what is that? Obedience? Is that social cohesion? Is that another word for obedience? Do as I say?
Well, yeah, I guess. We're trying to manage the strange combustible brew that they've created while blaming a minority of people in the country for that combustibility. But this article, anyway, the FT, I don't want to breeze past it. Financial Times, talking about newspapers. I don't think it's as good as people say it is, but the Financial Times is basically the best newspaper in the world, and it doesn't really have a rival. There is no newspaper that's even close. I honestly can't think. Maybe Bloomberg, but that's not a newspaper. But anyway, the FT, universally recognized, I would say, as being the best newspaper that we have, at least in our language. I don't know, maybe there's a better one in German that I don't know much about. But they've gone and spoken to some Canadian officials who've said, they've just sort of taken. This is actually just a kind of. That's the other one that was Canadian officials. This one is like a bird's eye view of what's going on. But they've said Mark Carney is now willing to accept tougher conditions to trade in North America. So in other words, what that says to me is the Financial Times at least recognizes that Mark Carney and the Liberal Party have conceded defeat, that they lost. They've lost to the United States. It's a failure and a defeat. This attempt to hold out go to Davos, talk a lot of bollocks that fools semi-literate people in Canada and other parts of the world. Try and sign like MOUs with Indonesia and the United Arab Emirates and other countries that aren't
Barbados,
particularly consequential when it comes to trade for Canada. All this stuff saying, and then the cold shoulder stuff where it's like, we are ready to engage in trade when the Americans are ready to engage, like, you know, all that stuff, and talking about it's a rupture, not a whatever it is, transition, blah blah blah. We don't need to hear all this stuff, do we? But after a year and a bit of that, it turns out that the Americans have won. The Liberals have realized that they can't resist the United States. They can't possibly resist the United States. They can't resist its economy. They can't resist its military. They can't resist its influence. They can't resist its geography and Canada's geography, which is to an extent the same thing. So now that the Americans are off chin wagging with the Mexicans and haven't invited Canada to the party, now the Liberals are scratching their heads and saying, oh no, like, this hasn't worked out. We've screwed it up again, just like we did last time, by the way, in 2016, whenever that was, when Chrystia Freeland screwed it up. But we've screwed it up again. And now we have to go and beg and say, Daddy, sorry I slammed the door. Sorry I shouted at you. I'll do what you said. Like, I'll accept the grounding, and you can take my pocket money away. I accept, but just please let me back into the fold. Whether, like I said, this is a Financial Times. People in Canada and in the Canadian elite who are switched on read this newspaper. Of course they do. Everybody pretty much in the English-speaking world that's switched on reads this newspaper. So they're aware of this. They're aware that this is the perception of Canada. But I mean, I don't want to do the thing like, let's check CBC. They're just like bottom feeders. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on, man. For God's sake. I mean, this is beyond just their bias. They're not high enough caliber to even know what's going on. They're too stupid. But Globe and Mail, you'd expect the Globe and Mail maybe, which is like a sort of sad, pathetic shadow version of the Financial Times. You'd expect maybe they would kind of be switched onto it. Alas, no, they don't know anything about this. So who in Canada knows this? Like I say, I'll just repeat what I said at the beginning. Mark Carney and the Liberal Party, in terms of their conflict with the United States over trade, have been defeated. This is a loss. This is a defeat. This is the beginning of the surrender process, which we're now going to watch unfold over the coming weeks. This is the announcement that Canada surrenders. So there you go. So if you're interested, if you've got your ear to the ground, you can hear the train coming from a long way away. I mean, we knew this train was coming a year ago, but now even the Financial Times are on it. They can hear the train. They can hear it rumbling. When do you think the average person in Canada is going to be made aware that this train is coming? Maybe when it runs over their head or something like. Well, at what point are they going to be informed? And this is what I mean about the worthless media in this country. I just have bottomless contempt for the media in this country. That you have to read a newspaper published in London, England, thousands of miles away, to find out what's going on in your own bloody country. What a disgrace that is.
You can hear Arnie warming up the motorcycle there as it roars into town on Judgment Day, because that's what's happening. This is Judgment Day. And the media is going to spin it or ignore it. I mean, what they do when there's harsh realities that show up that they can't fight back against, they tend to ignore it. And that's why we just showed you like a quick flash of the CBC website. They just ignore it. And I bang this drum a lot. The media in Canada is key to accountability. The media in Canada is key to accountability. That's why independent outlets like this and the Sam Coopers out there matter, because it's them that are willing to tell the truth. We do have Sam Cooper coming on Thursday. We have Aaron Pete coming on Friday, and we just got confirmation yesterday that Jasmine Lane will join us. She's been fighting against the machine as well. She'll be joining us tomorrow. So we got a full lineup Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then we also have Renee Merrifield joining me. I think it's at noon or 1. I can't remember which it is. What is it, noon or 1?
It's 1.
At 1 p.m. today, Renee Merrifield with Beyond the Ballot. So we're doing our damnedest, and we're doing our damnedest to bring you truth. And it's time now. Like, the truth is poking its out. There's green shoots of truth there, and this one is a big truth. I mean, this is the reality. And here it is, the Gordie Howe Bridge as well. In more news, the Gordie Howe International Bridge between Ontario and Michigan is set to open this week. And Carney says it's positive news as a symbol, but also as a fact of cooperation between our countries. That's the tone he should have had in day one. We'd have a deal by now. But he didn't. He did that for power. He did that to win the election, and he did that to boost his thing. He did that to get his majority. And the media, the crippled and corrupted media here in Canada that doesn't know, maybe they don't even understand finance, or they don't even understand how the country works. Or maybe they're too mired in ideology, whatever their excuse is. They don't understand what truth is, and they don't understand how many people suffer because of their lack of understanding, their misguided, or their hauteur. And here you have a choice now. You have a choice between positivity, a message of hope, or a message of hate. And look how the media loves to give this guy, who's not even elected, but see, he's on CPAC again. This guy is like the harbinger of hate, just the absolute harbinger of hate and misinformation, disinformation. Like, he gives them all a run. And this is Charlie Angus. And listen to this. So you have a choice. Why is he on CPAC? Play it.
But the most serious threat to Canada is coming from the White House. For this reason, I'm calling on Anton Bugman, the newly appointed Foreign Interference Transparency Commissioner, to launch an investigation into efforts by the Trump administration and other political actors to destabilize our country. Specifically, I am asking him to investigate allegations that there were a series of meetings held between top State Department officials and a small group of Alberta separatists. But the most serious threat to Canada is coming from the White House.
I mean, the clown said a lot more, but I mean, it's basically the same thing. Like, how this guy still has a microphone, I don't understand it. All the stuff that he said during when he was an MP was just, I don't know, like, hey, he needs a mental wellness check.
I'm going to go, because that's CPAC, obviously. I'm just going to quickly go on their website, and I'm going to see how they described Charlie Angus. Because, a lot of journalism is pretty much trying to think about how you define things and people. So if you ever read The Economist, for example, it seems a bit daft, but when you read The Economist, they'll say something like, JP Morgan, a bank. That's daft. That's their style. But it does sort of tap into something that's very important, which is that journalists, and this is something that we all, not just journalists, we all experience this. We all need this. We have a need to define things, to say what something is, put it into simple language, simple descriptive language. Anyway, so here I am. I've found their website, and he's described as former NDP MP, which sort of confirms my suspicions that another way to describe this man would be unemployed Ottawa man, or wherever he lives. Like, who is this guy? Like, why should we care what this unemployed man has to say? Like, nothing against the unemployed, but we don't usually go around Service Canada outlets, do we, and say, like, what do you think about Alberta separatism? Like, tell us about it. Like, sorry, why should any of us care what this strange, unlettered little man has to say about anything? It's remarkable. But obviously, he's got some friends at CPAC, hasn't he? He must do. He must be texting them, saying, "Come on, lads." But also, where was this? Was this in the House of Commons? Like, has he just got like a lifetime membership? Yeah, it is Parliament Hill.
Flags too. Like, he's got all the flags in behind him, like he represents the government. Hey, like he represents the government. Like, it's lunacy. This is the media in Canada. They're actually giving him the podium and giving him the illusion that he's a representative of Canada. He's not a representative. He's even wearing the flair like Elizabeth May. This is why Canada's where it's at. This is why Canada is suffering, because the media platforms these people. Now, and then here's the one that they love to tear down. Now tell me which message rings more true for you.
And now if I could speak to Canadians from other provinces, I encourage you now more than ever to reach out to Albertans. Tell them how much you appreciate and love them. Really listen to them and support their ambitions, because our destinies are intertwined. One for all for one. The whole of Canada should now wrap its arms around Alberta and its people. At the same time, we should reignite our patriotism. No more tearing down statues, libeling our heroes, or canceling our history. We must bind this country together with the love of our common history, our common achievements, our common heroes, and our common belief that this is the best country anywhere on earth.
I don't know, Charlie Angus or Pierre Poilievre? This guy, the enemy of the media, Charlie Angus, the friend of the media. Whose side is the media on?
I mean, I feel like we should apologize to Pierre Poilievre for even comparing him to Charlie Angus, who is a mere gnat on the windscreen, isn't he? The better question, I think, and the more sort of relevant question is Pierre Poilievre or Mark Carney. And I have to say, if it's on this issue of Alberta, there's only one person that looks prime ministerial, and it's this fella here. That's how you talk about something like this, in my very humble opinion. You don't come out with a lot of techno waffle and ums and ahs and MOUs and utter bollocks like that, and threats of economic catastrophe and Brexit and all the rest of that trash. You come out and you do what Pierre Poilievre did, and you talk about the things that actually matter, like people from Alberta and people from Canada died together in the 20th century and other centuries, but particularly the 20th century, in the wars for the world. That's how he started it, about veterans and about war, and then said it was just a love bomb. It was all about, like, let's stay together. We know that there are lots of problems, but we love ya. This is the best country ever, etc., etc. Yeah, I just think that is like lots of dings, lots of cowbell strikes. Whereas the car, I'm trying to think of a way to describe what Carney did. I don't know. I mean, I just think, techno babble, basically. That was Carney's approach, wasn't it? It was just very unsentimental, very boring, very cold, and also a little bit menacing, a little bit sort of baleful underneath the surface, as always seems to be the case with Mr. Carney. So yeah, forget Charlie Angus, like forget the detritus. Let's think about people that matter, like Mark Carney. And yeah, I would give Pierre Poilievre the tap on the head for that one.
And the media machine and the minions, Carney's Liberal MPs, the minions that go out and push hatred and division. And like that story we covered yesterday where they, like you said, they zoomed in with a microscope to find 14 guys in a foreign country trying to make a few bucks off of like of a popular topic. And then they turned it into a message of hatred and division again. Like everything to them is like, they have a hammer, and to them, everything's a bloody nail as they try to turn that message in. Instead of like the reality of the situation is Alberta and Saskatchewan right now are bringing home the bacon for this nation. They are the cowbell ringers of prosperity. They're bringing it home. We're going to show you some of that evidence in a few minutes here. They're bringing it home, and instead of treating them with the respect they deserve, you paint them with the same brush and you push them further away. David Eby, you need to stand up and apologize. Like what David Eby is doing as well is just, he talks about Team Canada. He's the one that's literally trying to rip this nation apart, as well as his own province.
But yeah, absolutely no doubt whatsoever, just to go back to that Alberta thing. There's no doubt that they zoomed in, and I didn't do it, and I don't have the time, and I don't actually really have the inclination because I don't really care, and I don't think it's important. But if you popped over to any sort of Culture Wars Facebook group, because they just did this on Facebook, nowhere else, anything, and that probably also includes the Alberta Remain groups, Forever Canada or whatever that one's called. You could go in there. You could go into ones about abortion. You could go into ones about whatever, like Trump, whatever it is. Go in there, and I guarantee you will find accounts from Indonesia and the Philippines and India and wherever else. Of course you will. Have you been on the internet lately? You know, that's the question you need to be asked. If you're confused about that, it's like, oh wow, this guy's from India. Why is he in a Facebook group about Alberta separation or something like that? Yeah, because that's the internet, mate. Have you been on the internet lately? Please answer the question. Obviously, the CBC hasn't been on the internet lately, and hence they wrote that stupid article. Or they made the assumption that their gullible readers haven't been on the internet lately. So, but yeah, indeed, they did focus on one issue, one tiny microscopic issue, which is representative of a universal problem that we have now in the 21st century.
We got another clip here from Pierre Poilievre. We've actually got a couple here. We're going to play this clip here.
And every family has problems. Families fail not because they argue about those problems, but they fail when they sweep those problems under the rug and pretend they do not exist. The problems don't go away. They get bigger. Those who cause the problems in Canada today will tell you to pretend those problems don't exist, and they will denounce as unpatriotic anyone who speaks honestly about them. Doing that in this referendum would only drive people further away. If you want frustrated Albertans to vote for Canada, the absolute worst thing we can do is dismiss their legitimate grievances and thus signal there's no hope of fixing them at all. Here are the undeniable facts. 10 years ago, under the leadership of a great Albertan, Stephen Harper, there was no separatist movement in Alberta. When Mr. Harper left office, the Parti Québécois had been defeated, and the Bloc Québécois had been reduced to 4 seats. It didn't even have party status. We thought referendums on separation were a thing of the past. Today, 10 years later, hundreds of thousands of Albertans have signed a petition to leave, and polls put the separatist Parti Québécois in first place in Quebec, running on an explicit platform of separation.
I just want to add a note there, Diana. It's just saying thank the mod team, and Diana is one of them as well. We do have moderators in the group now. A few of our Thinking Canadian members have volunteered to be moderators, which is appreciated because it's tough for us. We have a small team. We're trying to do the best we can with what we have, and to have some moderators in this group in here. The comments are, we go through these comments. We answer a lot of these comments as well, even after the show. We appreciate the comments because this show is about you. It's about Canada, and it matters. CBC turns off its comments. They don't want to hear from you, right? They just want to yell into a hole and get you ramped up with fear and narrative. But
the same is true of all the most vociferous, vituperative gobshites on the establishment left. The same is true if you go on X.com, for example, and you look at posts from a lot of, like I say, the most aggressive squid ink sprays in the whole, intellectual realm, if you want to call it that. And they've turned off their replies. You can't even reply to them. It's like, come on. You can't, that is no way to behave. You're not going to persuade anybody shouting from the ivory tower like that, with no way for anybody to send a message back.
One more from Mr. Poilievre here.
They have had the audacity to impose themselves on provincial areas like taxing industrial carbon, seizing people's hunting rifles, and blocking oil and gas projects that are strictly within provincial jurisdiction. That has gotten in the way of Alberta's and Canada's biggest industry at massive expense to our entire country. While these intrusions drive our country apart, a destructive ideology has tried to erase the things that used to bring us together downgrading and denigrating our common identity and history by canceling our symbols, shaming our heroes, dividing us by group, and promoting a post-national state leaves less holding us together and more driving us apart. We must be prepared, my friends, to have some honest conversations over this next several months. You see, a country is a lot like a family. And every family has problems. Families fail not because they argue about those problems, but they fail when they sweep those problems under the rug and pretend they do not exist. The problems don't go away. They get bigger. Those who cause the problems in Canada today will tell you to pretend those problems don't exist, and they will denounce as unpatriotic anyone who speaks honestly about them. Doing that in this referendum would only drive people further away. If you want frustrated Albertans to vote for Canada, the absolute worst thing we can do is dismiss their legitimate grievances and thus signal there's no hope of fixing them at all.
I mean, it's just common sense. Just common sense, right? Like if somebody has a grievance, do you lock them in their room? You lock them in their room and yell at them and tell them how terrible they are? Do you think that's going to make things better? Do you think they're going to come to this, oh, well, hey, it's too bad I was being like angry about you suppressing me and about taking away our prosperity. I was wrong. It's not going to happen.
And just, cast doubt on the legitimacy of their feelings by saying it's actually, those feelings have actually been installed in you by the people down the street. Like it's not really in this house. It doesn't come from here. It's the outsiders.
And you know what? It's not just about Alberta, because that Alberta prosperity is shared with the nation. And stifling that prosperity takes money off the table, takes away healthcare, takes away roads. We don't even have a 2-lane highway, like a 4-lane highway, I should say, all across Canada. Our Trans-Canada Highway, and supposedly one of the greatest nations in the world, if you listen to the Liberals, does not have a 4-lane highway, #1 highway across Canada, still to this day. Go to the United States, see how many interstates there are. Like there's just a massive amount of interstates. Almost go any country. Just crazy. And then this is a key point. This is from Holiday and Blacklocks, and this is a point that Poilievre makes in that speech, right? It is, now I lost it. The government is rich and the people are poor. That's the facts, right? That's the harsh, cold reality. The government insiders are rich and taking from the taxpayer. We showed you that yesterday. 13 VPs in Alto already. $200 million in Spaceballs. 250 plus million were alleged to Stephen Guilbeault. No paperwork. Chrystia Freeland now managing just under $25 billion. Touring the United States, selling her book now. Selling a book. We got something to show you at the end you're going to love. We got, and our big salute today, you're not going to believe this salute. You got to stick around for the salute because it's I think one of the best ones. It may not be what you think, but it is absolutely needed. And here's Daniel Smith. The numbers don't lie. Alberta is booming. We talk about this on the show all the time. Alberta is the engine. And I would put Saskatchewan there as well. Alberta and Saskatchewan hitting above their weight class. BC, there it is, Mr. Eby. There it is, BC, the red line. The harsh red line. But hey, you win in Hotel. Like as far as Hotel, you and Wab Canoe, Doug Ford, and Mark Carney and the Liberals, you win in all the Hotel. That doesn't put food on the table. You say there's nobody wants LNG. Look, another deal signed. Heather Exner-Perot puts this out. Lost with a German LNG agreement is the fact that UK energy giant Centrica has signed 3 offtake agreements with Canadian natural gas producers, one of them last week. And the deliveries made at the ACO hub in Alberta. People want energy. This latest crisis with Iran drives the point home how important energy is Like they hit, it was always important. It was always all important. But it took this crisis here to bring it to the forefront so people understood how important it actually is. It's not like it changed its importance. It just became to the forefront. People actually had to like the truth. It had to like basically hit like with a 5-ton truck, like smacked you right in the face. Just like energy is everything. How long have we been saying it on this show? Energy is everything. Cheap, reliable energy is prosperity and security.
Although I hope that, to some extent, it's great that we're selling it all, but let's hope that there is no convergence between the North American and European gas markets. We don't want that. We don't want to be paying European prices for gas. I mean, that would take a hell of a lot of effort. That would take a lot of LNG. But yeah, if any of those rascals out there think that they can charge us in Canada European prices, don't be doing that.
Here's more proof. As like that article right in the beginning there says, like it's over for the fossil fuel industry. Giant oil supertank orders eclipse record set in 2008. Why? Why would that be? Why would that be?
But didn't we just have a tweet from Pembina Institute where they're saying that the whole world is going green and fossil fuels are like a dud? That's like, nobody's bothering with fossil fuels except Canada. Stupid Canada. Oh, what? Sorry, what? What's this?
Yeah, currently 262 super tankers, each capable of carrying about 2 million barrels of crude, on order at shipyards around the world. 262 super tankers on order. I wonder if Canada should get into the shipbuilding business instead of sending our shipbuilding off to, where's that again? China. China. Because what? Because they get to use slave labor, no industrial carbon tax, and inferior aluminum and steel. But hey, who cares? Screw the Canadian worker. No, as they would say, Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau and the rest of the Liberals said there's no business case for LNG. What's this then? Who are these idiots ordering all these super tankers?
Maybe it's all just... Usually when you ask questions like this, the answer from the maniacs in the left environmental activist lobby is fossil fuel companies. Somehow, some conspiracy where like...
yeah, they just dump it somewhere, right? Because nobody's using it, right?
So maybe that's it. Maybe it's like BP are doing it because they're just evil, man. The fossil fuel guys. It really degenerates into just the most insane conspiracy mongery when you start actually listening to these people.
I didn't put it in the story load, but Brookfield also buying into a pipeline in Kuwait.
Of course they are.
But hey, as far as pipelines go in Canada, this one is important. Our exports hit a record high here of $75 billion. Driven by oil and gas.
Is it black and gooey? Yeah.
Canada posted a trade surplus for the second consecutive month in April, driven primarily by oil and energy. Like I said, even as much as they work hard to shovel it down, just imagine if they unleashed the beast, what Canada's economy would be doing. Unleash the beast. Take away the restrictions and the shackles. That's why a guy like Pierre Poilievre would just light this economy on fire. The $2.7 billion surplus was the largest since January 25 and followed a $1.8 billion trade surplus in March, the first since September of 2025. Look at this chart here. And it's not just oil and gas, I guess. Gold also. But a little, caution there. A lot of this driven by the high price of oil as well, right? This surplus. Like right now, Alberta's making out like bandits, right? Like, I mean, Alberta is they were talking about a $9 billion deficit. It looks like they're going to run a surplus right now. And yet, you would think if you were the manager of a company, like a large company like Canada, you would look and you would look across your business units across Canada, your provinces, and you would say, who's contributing here? Who is contributing to our profits here? Oh, look, it's Alberta and Saskatchewan. Why not more of them and less of the other guys talk, right? But what do we do instead? We give David Eby the floor. Less of him, more of Alberta. Less of him, more of Alberta. Isn't that what you would do?
But it's also like all the attention that's been put on like Bombardier and the car companies and stuff like that in Ontario and Quebec. Like they obviously do generate quite a bit of money as well, but they also cost a huge amount of money to prop up. And a lot of sort of political capital is spent on that, both domestically and, you know, internationally. But it just seems to me that they don't quite... I've actually forgotten what I was going to say. So,
you know what?
That was a miracle.
When
I think
they
Melanie
come
Jolie
at
went into my head and stole my
you,
idea.
you'll find it here in a second.
No.
When they come at you and talk about how Alberta is the evil empire and Daniel Smith is the devil, put these charts down and say, this is Canada's prosperity. What you talk about is nonsense. The other side of the coin.
Remember what it is now. It's also geopolitics. That's what I was going to say. Look, these are Saskatchewan and Alberta are valuable on a geopolitical level. Bombardier and you know, Toyota or something in Ontario, they're not really valuable. They don't really matter at all geopolitically. They're completely irrelevant, as a matter of fact. Oil, gas, potash, uranium, whatever, all that good stuff from Saskatchewan and Alberta. Obviously, it's worth a certain amount of money that's traded, and it's worth a certain amount to your GDP or whatever. But it's worth so much more in geopolitical terms because it's so valuable that other countries, as we've seen, like Germany and Japan and Korea and that, they don't come to Canada to ask for Bombardier jets. It's like, please, can you just give me some Bombardiers? Like, you know, we'll do anything. You know, we'll fund the facilities so you can make them. Obviously not not anybody, but lots of countries can make planes. That's not a big deal. But there's a finite amount of oil, gas, uranium, potash, etc. around the world. And that's when you really do have to send your prime minister or whatever overseas to beg for stuff, because you need that to function. So it's beyond just money. You know, a lot of people, you could break it down just to money if you wanted to, but I think you kind of miss, as we were saying yesterday, Peppa Pig teaches geopolitics to the Liberal Party. Like, Peppa Pig, geopolitics 1 or 2, after Peppa Pig's taught you about how Canada and the US are joined together, Peppa Pig in the next lecture will say there are certain materials, certain goods that are traded, commodities, that are way more valuable than just the dollar cost to acquire them. You know, they have geopolitical value. And that's what Alberta and Saskatchewan offers Canada. It offers it like relevance. You know, it's no coincidence that both the Liberals and the Conservatives are saying we should leverage basically Alberta and Saskatchewan. We should just leverage them to get deals with other countries. Yeah, because they're kind of the most important provinces in Canada when you look at it from that perspective.
Everybody should send an email to an Albertan friend and say thank you for what you do. And we will work with the government. We'll send an email to the letter and say, get out of the way, unleash the beast. You can just send 3 words. And underneath every CBC article, everything on every CTV, every one of those things, just put unleash the beast and then put this show on there. Unleash the beast, watch this. Unleash the beast, watch this. And here's more of what 11 years of this government has done. Here, listen to this from Kelly.
Minister, Canada's the only G20 country in a recession. There's been no answer to why our government has failed us and brought us into a recession. First, it was a technical recession, but when Canadians pushed back, it became tariffs. But when that didn't stick, it became not enough spending and not enough immigration. What? When Canadians have to steal $10 billion worth of groceries because of affordability, is it because they're only technically hungry?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to the member for the question. Mr. Speaker, we're seeing rents come down across Canada right now. We're seeing 20 straight months of rents declining, which is a positive trend. We're investing in the affordable housing that Canada needs. to make sure that Canadians can afford housing. We're investing in the discounts and rebates that groceries and essentials benefit, and it benefits to children, food programs across the board. This side of the House votes for affordability. That side of the House votes against it.
That's good. That's good
member for Kitchener.
That's like, well, the housing that you're talking about, the rents coming down, it's actually turning into a disaster because the real estate market is like basically imploding. We're going to get somebody on and talk about the real estate market in Toronto and Vancouver as people start losing their homes. They can take credit for that. You taking credit for having to dole out some crumbs to people because they can't afford groceries? You want to take credit for that one too? Like that's amazing that you want to take credit for that.
But what's going on with Greg Robertson? Like, is he on Quaaludes or something? He's so low energy.
He's just like, I gotta see this stuff.
Canada's strong. Good night, everybody.
And also just like, I don't know how to answer this stuff. I'm just going to give the typical speech. Yeah, we're doing this and that and this other thing. And, like it just sucks here. Anyway, here's Corey Hogan, a Calgarian MP that is basically ready for the loony bin. Like he puts it, this is the misinformation, disinformation. He puts this chart out. The United States has higher GDP in Canada, but average Canadian better off. And if you look at that, on the surface, you say, oh, look at that, right? Why is that, though? You would have to ask yourself, why is that? It's because Canada has
cowbell,
inflated real estate assets that are now falling apart. Why don't we come back and see what this looks like in a year? But it's inflated real estate. It's mostly a housing inflation story, not prosperity. Strip out real estate appreciation and Canada's position weakens dramatically. And GDP per capita, it's a huge gap. These people like this, Corey Hogan, spreads misinformation, disinformation, and is part of the problem in Canada. And the media just eats it up while they actually trumpet the garbage that's put out there.
Oh, what the media is doing is trying to tell you that the recession that we're in is not really a recession, even though it's a recession. They're not telling you about this misleading trash based on hyperinflated housing markets, particularly in Toronto and Vancouver, which is caused somewhat by massive money laundering out of places like China, but also, of course, infinity immigration by the Liberals that shot up demand to unsustainable levels. We had Ron, the mortgage guy, on.
Butler, yeah. And that the Liberals are starting to worry when they trot the old man out, because it was he was my political hero, but I don't know what's the matter with Jean Chrétien as he allows himself to be used as a rage baiter. Listen to this clip here as he's on there with Rosemary Barton here.
At this moment, when you look at the polls, the Canadians have been never more united than they are right now. I say thank you to Donald Trump for that. As you know, I said I should propose him for the order of Canada. But I cannot succeed. Do you know why?
He's not Canadian?
No.
People would be mad at you?
No, Nelson Mandela had it.
Well, that's true.
You know what? He will not qualify.
No.
Because we don't give it to a person who has a criminal record.
Right.
That's the truth.
That's good enough.
Nelson Mandela had a criminal record as well, you daft old bugger. Of course he did. He was in jail, remember?
That's what I mean. They don't even care. They don't fact check. They don't do anything. But they trot out the old man. Jean Chrétien, come on, man. Come on.
The order of Canada, but I cannot succeed. Do you know why?
I mean, you can't resist that voice, can you? He's got a voice for the ages. It's just full of character, isn't it? Even the texture of his voice. I do appreciate that immensely, Mr. Chrétien. Mr. Chrétien.
Ian did interview him when he was here, when we had him here. We paid him to be here, actually. Him and Harper at the Level Up conference we held in 2019. We had both Harper and Chrétien here. Spent some time with him. He's different. He's different, though. It seems like now he's just like kind of like a rambling old man willing to come out for a soundbite, as opposed to he was more reflective then. Because even when I was chatting with him, he said he was not a big fan of Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. Well, because how could he be? Just look at the way he governed and then compare it to what Justin did. But he's become more partisan, hasn't he? I suppose is what we would have to say. But also this, like, when you look at the polls, Canadians have never been more united. I mean, that's one way to talk about it. I think the poll he's probably talking about is that Leger poll that we talked about that had the Liberals at 50%. 50%. I mean, there's an old saying, isn't there? Is the glass half empty or half full? It's like, but that's not. I mean, that's the opposite of united, isn't it? That's divided perfectly. That's literally cut in half with a samurai sword. That's not united. But obviously, in his mind, that's great news, isn't it? He just can't ignore what he personally desires, which is Liberal Party domination till the end of time. And the chuckling sausage roll gobbler next to him wants the same thing. So they just have a great little chat in the sunshine about eternal Liberal rule.
I'm not going to play the next clip because I think we've driven the point home. But and then with Sandra Kobina there, I'm not going to play the clip either. But if you go to the next one there, Sandra, because I mean it's over and over and over again. It's like she's basically saying taking money off the table of people that cannot afford to give it. That's the key point. You're taking money off the table from people that cannot afford it, and then standing at the podium and giving some of that back to some people that don't deserve it, and then expecting accolades for it. It's not your money to begin with. Can't they take credit for giving back some of the money to some other people that didn't pay any taxes as well? And the sad reality is that the people that you're taking it from can't afford to give it. That's the sad reality, that they're not making their monthly obligations. They're foregoing meat. They can't afford to give it, and you're still taking it. Well, you stuff your belly. Well, you stuff your belly with expensive food and all on the taxpayer dime. And then this one here, that I had to put this tweet in, Herb Powell. He says, "I've never thought I'd see half a population defend a recession like their lives depended on it." I can't believe it either. Like, how much media time has been spent on defending this recession?
But I mean, obviously, that's for the Liberals. That's priority number one, isn't it? Reputational protection. And the only way to protect your reputation when you've overseen a recession after being in power for 11 years is to pretend that it isn't really a recession, I guess. This is not a recession, experts say.
Yeah, experts. We've trotted out all these Nobel laureate winning experts that live off the government coffers, and they agree with us. Imagine that. Here's Francois Philippe Champagne. When there's a weakness in industry, this is an MO of the Liberal Party as well. When they spot weakness in an industry, they just actually try to crush it more and then hand out some crumbs so they can have it beholding to the industry. And this is Canadians rely on air transportation to visit their loved ones, travel for work, and he says they're going to give them some money. The new program will let airlines borrow up to $150 million each as fallout from the Iran war forces them to slash flight schedules and profits. The airline said they don't want it. WestJet says it strongly opposes this handout or loan offer and says the government faces choices and continues with costly and market-distorting subsidies. Get out of the way.
Why so anti-liberal?
There's no need for that. Get out of the way. This is the whole thing, picking winners and losers, right? This is the whole thing. At least WestJet pushes back on it and says no. Because it's just like this whole thing that goes is they want to pick a winner and a loser. That's what whole Bill C-5 is. Yeah, yes, you can go through the door. No, not you, right? Same for the media. Look at independent media crushed in Canada. CBC, here's more slop for the trough, right? Independent media crushed. Close to 100 outlets failed already since they've introduced Bill C-18. And in that time, CBC got more money. They actually campaigned during the campaign when Poilievre said they were going to defund the CBC. Mark Carney promised them $150 million extra. And they got it. Crazy. Well, I mean, Justin Trudeau and what's her name? Pascal Saint-Onge wanted to double their budget to $3 billion a year. Because he said there's such a important institution in Canada. And Mark Carney said they're the most important institution. They are the most important institution to the Liberal Party. That's who they are important to. They're surely not important to the Canadian public.
It still amazes me that he said that. The most important of Canadian institutions. The hell? More important than the military? Some crap media organization that nobody even listens to or watches. It's like, how is that more important than the military?
Put that WestJet one up there, please. The next slide. Next one. No, this one here. Oh, let's see if you can find it. Yeah, it's crazy though. It's absolutely crazy. And then they gave money to the airlines during COVID too, and they forgave about $380 million in COVID-19 money to Air Transat. Your money. Your money. That's what I mean. It's just corporate welfare. The amount of corporate welfare handed out by the Liberals in the last 11 years. Man, if we could have that money back, there'd probably be massive surpluses. What is it, like $50 billion in a green scheme, failed battery plants? And here's the industry leader here. Just listen to this. Listen to what she's calling for. It's just like somebody should, I mean, if we want to get a deal with the United States, someone should tell her, like, you know, you should go on vacation or something. And just shh, right?
Where will we be in terms of collaboration for our countries, but for our businesses as well? I think that's the most important takeaway for those who are here today. What should we expect in 10 years?
Well, I think that in 10 years, Canada can be seen as a very trusted partner to Europe, concretely speaking, with a lot of decision making that is how can I say, in line with what is developed in Brussels, but in a true Canadian way. Because obviously we will always be there in our own geography, trading with the Americans and also trading with China, but we will be much more integrated to the European Union and its countries, and obviously the UK is part of that, and Norway and other countries that are not necessarily part of the European Union, but that have a lot of mechanisms to be much more integrated. And I'm thinking of Norway particularly. So that's the idea. What I really want is in 10 years to see more investments by Canadian companies in Europe and vice versa. I want us to be increasingly by 100% our exports to Europe. And I really would like to see the creation of true Canadian-European companies in key sectors. And I think that is lacking. And I really, really think that we can take...
That's good enough.
She hasn't got a clue, has she?
Nope. She attended like a session and they told her, and then she just talks like, you know, like she listened to a 15-minute seminar on something, and then she talks like she's the absolute expert in it. Just like she has no idea what she's talking about.
She's talking about Norway. She's saying we want an arrangement like Norway has with the European Union. Will you please? It's the Bernie Sanders meme. I am once again asking, can you please read about these things before you open your mouth? Please, Melanie, I know you watch now and then. Please, I'm really begging you, please, read about Norway. And like I say all the time, I don't even say Google anymore. Go on a chatbot. Ask a chatbot, what is Norway's relationship with the European Union? Norway is almost like a de facto member of the European Union, except they don't get to influence the laws. They're a law taker rather than a law maker. Do you want that for Canada? Do you want the European Union to basically decide everything that we do in exchange for access to the customs union? Do you want to join the customs union? Do you know what that even means, Melanie? Do you want to join the single market? Do you know what that means? No. Somebody said no. Of course she doesn't. She doesn't know the first thing about that. Does she know how many people live in Norway? More people live in the Greater Toronto area than live in Norway. Does she know where Norway is? Should we show her? Just in case? Just in case she's unaware? Okay, here we go. See that country there? Right? This is Europe. This is Norway. Right? And then over here, that's Canada. See how far away we are? Did she? I mean, for God's sake. Again, where's Peppa Pig when you need some geopolitical wisdom? Where is Professor Peppa Pig? It's too tiresome. It's too much to take. It's too much for me to deal with. So can't take it.
Well, they're going to need more VPs at the Alto project. They only got 13 right now because Quebec separatists have said they were going to withdraw from the Alto high-speed rail if they are elected in the province in October. And that's Paul Saint-Pierre Plamondon, the leader of the Parti Québécois, says he will prevent the building of the Liberals' mega project, mega boondoggle. Did I say that? Which is supposed to connect Quebec City to Toronto because it's more important to connect Quebecers to each other than to Ontario. Oopsie. $90 billion
so
right now.
It's basically for Quebec. This is you could call it a boondoggle. It's basically a boondoggle, isn't it? This is for Quebec. Most of this is Quebec.
Slush pile. Here's Andy.
I mean, just look at the track itself. It's basically it connects Toronto and Montreal, and there'll be tourism in that direction of Toronto to Montreal. But in terms of business, it's going to be Montreal to Toronto, and it's going to be Montreal to Ottawa and Quebec City to Ottawa as well, and Quebec City to Montreal. Like it's so funny, isn't it? It's hilarious. But I guess this gives them something to fight about in the provincial election. They'll be saying we're for it, they're against it, etc.
It'll buy some votes for sure because 13 vice presidents, how many of them from Quebec, I guess? Lucrative ad contracts, good for the CBC and CTV, right? They'll be spending money there. Millions in bonuses already. Good for Francois-Philippe Champagne's wife. And they haven't laid
Mrs. Bubble. That's one of our commenters likes to say.
He talked to his mother. Things are great. We got brand new cars, brand new BMWs. Oh, I don't know, man. 13 VPs. Are you mad yet? How many VPs in your household? They spend $1.6 million to oversee this, to advertise a rail project that doesn't exist. What are you advertising? Like, next slide. What literally are you advertising?
A Liberal promise that hasn't materialized yet. So it's basically political advertising, party advertising, isn't it?
And Dan Elbis, we interviewed, I think it was last week. Dan Elbis was in. We talked a little bit about the spaceport. And, we talked about that being a boondoggle. But that's like infinitesimal. I mean, that's like minute compared to this boondoggle, right? This is, the spaceport could grow into a monstrous boondoggle. But right now...
Well, I mean, if the PQ kills it, then, move all those chips into Spaceballs.
That's right. 13 VPs right away. Boom.
The same people. Yeah, you don't even need new people.
We had to get them jobs. They need jobs. My wife, she need a job. Here's Dan Elbis, though.
Speaker, and I'll be sharing my time today with the Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes. And I want to begin where we should always begin, with Judgement. Archibald Lampman, a Canadian poet who worked right here in Ottawa, once wrote, "The pulse of the great machine goes on forever, dead and blind, and no voice or sound of human will disturbs its deep and ceaseless grind." The reason why I share this is because Canadians are watching the decision about maritime launch service in such bewilderment, and they're asking, is this an actual attempt at Canadian space sovereignty or something else altogether? Because many who have looked into this decision closely have questions. Because the more they look, the more they research, this looks like a decision that was hastily made that so just happens to support well-connected liberal insiders and lobbyists surrounding maritime launch services. This Liberal government will stand in this House and argue this $200 million expenditure is a necessary investment to secure Canada's place in a global space economy. They will justify this spending just as Liberals always justify deficit spending: grow the economy, meet the moment, investing in our future, protecting our sovereignty. We've heard it all before, over and over again. Superclusters, the SDTC Green Slush Fund, planting billions of trees.
That's good. I mean, he's going to go on there for a while because there's a long list. But he tied right into our headline, though. Judgment Day. Judgment. You're not going to get accountability until you switch this government out. They're not going. We're going to talk a little bit more about accountability later. You're not going to get any accountability until it's changed out because they continue to suppress accountability. Like they're turning off inquiries. They're turning off cameras. They want social cohesion. It's dystopian. It's literally dystopian. And the amount of money that's being taken from many Canadians that can't afford to give it. And they're going to come and take more. I'm going to show you that in a few seconds here. They want more of your money. And here's the picture of SpaceX, which is going to IPO, I believe, on Friday now. There's SpaceX. And I was being generous there. And there's Canada's spaceport, $200 million. That's a 10-year lease for that gravel pad there. A cement pad on a gravel pad, right? So one's in Boca Chica.
SpaceX and Space B.
Space balls there, but you know what I mean.
B is for ball.
I mean, I was trying to be generous there, but because that's Canada's sovereignty. You know what? If they were serious about it, it would be a little better, right? But I mean, how can you take it serious if they lease land? Because they don't even own this land. This company leased the land from the Nova Scotia government for $13,000, $200 a year. Then they turned around and released it back to the federal government for $20 million a year.
And they just happen to be quite well connected.
Who's got a calculator?
Right.
Like either the Nova Scotia government's absolute morons because they just leased their land for next to nothing, or the company there is absolute geniuses and the federal government's a bunch of morons. But you know, the bigger moron in all this is you, the Canadian taxpayer.
Yeah, because ultimately it's our collective fortune here that's been
squandered.
I mean, you wouldn't let these people invest like $20, would you? If you had a choice in the matter. They extract it from you on pain of imprisonment and then spend it on things like this. So, I mean, again, as you've said, I've said, if you're not upset about this, I don't know. I mean, maybe you know something that we don't know, or maybe you're not paying attention.
Check this one out here. This is one from Holly Donald Blacklocks here. A defense industry startup, why not? Whose chief lobbyist is the brother of the Deputy Defense Minister, Christina Fox. Wasn't she already in on one of those deals when she hired a friend of hers to run the...
Gym friend?
The gym friend. She's now got another conflict here. Has won a private audience with the Prime Minister to discuss drone technology. Awesome. Like, why stop at just the gym brother, the gym bro that she hired that happens to be related to her husband? The Proving Council yesterday had no comment. Why would they? Dominion Dynamics is a Canadian defense technology startup founded in 2025. Huh. Just as she got the job there as Deputy Defense Minister, her brother started up a company, Drone Technologies, headquartered in Ottawa. Talk about a coincidence.
Look at his job title. Look at his job title. head of government relations.
Yeah, imagine
That's
that,
his
eh?
job title. Happens to have gestated in the same womb as the person, the number 2 in the government in that role. Gee, I mean, what a coincidence! What a coincidence! That's like how many times does lightning strike the exact same spot?
But here's the better
Ottawa?
part.
There's got to be a world record.
Here's the better part. Dominion Dynamics, the defense technology startup, has no factory or lab. Okay? It's now in a growth phase. That's what you say about every company. Any stupid idea on a napkin is a growth phase, isn't it? The really big show is in a growth phase. How do we get access to this like slush pile? But they're planning to employ 100 people in 2026. We're planning to employ 100 people in 2026. How do we get some of this money? It also intends to open a new development office as soon as they get government funding. Hey? Isn't that it? Just as soon as you send over the bucket of cash, she's making about $420K a year as Deputy Minister of National Finance, and she's also the one that hired her gym. What is a gym instructor? Worked at the gym there where she went.
It was also her husband's cousin or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what it was.
Oh, here it is, right here. In a separate matter, lobbying to save her husband's cousins gave him $80K a year, and didn't just give him a job there, made him a manager to top it off, despite lack of qualifications. And he did work at Good Life Fitness. Let's be fair. I mean, that's a hell of a qualifier, right? Hey?
Do you know what I mean, though? Like, we if you bother to sort of go to university or something like that, or go to like a think tank talk, and they talk about the Chinese governmental system, probably like one of the first things that you'll be informed of is that the Chinese government is extraordinarily nepotistic, that the society is based on nepotism. And that's like one of the reasons that China maybe won't beat the West in this great civilizational struggle, because they're so obsessed with giving jobs to their relatives that in the end they don't get the best person. It's not like a proper meritocracy. This is a really old conversation in China studies. Let's put it that way. What do you think the Chinese think of this? Because I can promise you the Chinese read Blacklocks, and well, they probably don't even have to read it. They probably already knew this, probably hacked the emails 5 years ago or something. But they'll know all this. What do you think the Chinese think? When it's like, okay, one of your main criticisms of our system here in China is that we're nepotists and we don't hire the best people because we just hire friends or family or people within the sort of clannish system. Turns out Canada does the same bloody thing. And this is hardly trivial, is it? This is the defense of the realm. Can't be more serious than this. And yet there's this extraordinarily unserious person, Christiane Fox, who's now been involved in 2 nepotism scandals and still has a job.
Well,
what the hell?
But wait here, though. They did ask her the question, and she did say that she promptly directed her chief of staff to implement an initial conflict of interest screen for her. She will fully comply with conflict of interest screen and any other recusal requirements as needed. Isn't that odd, though, that, just as she gets appointed to this job, that her brother decides he's going to start up a defense agency or company that doesn't have anything to begin with, but all of a sudden he's just like, wow, and if I start up this defense contractor? And what'll be the odds that he gets a contract? What are the odds? Anybody want to put something on Polymarkets? What are the odds? And then she'll come out and say, I had nothing to do with it.
But then you also have Hajid Sajan. He's after contracts in the defense world as well, isn't he? That guy, by the way, if you're wondering who he is, the former defense minister. I mean, there is so much slime. And like I'm saying, the Chinese, they must be laughing themselves to sleep. Canada in general, I would say, it's a Canadian attitude that Canadians do things better than the Chinese Communist Party and China in general. Yeah, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? You'd certainly hope so. Where's the evidence that we actually do things better? This is just so incestuous. This is so low grade. This is so pre-modern. But it's here. It's happening right here in Canada, and it's happening with your money.
Well, this Nelson's saying that both of us have access to the slush pile. We're just the ones that pay for it. But I want to say that maybe Ottawa, we have to look at Ottawa in a different way. That Ottawa is just one giant pig farm. And they just bring these sows in and then just realize, like, we're going to spend a lot of money on defense. So that's going to be one big pig. And there's going to be a lot of teats there. So get ready, boys, because you got to come with your ideas. So her brother said, hey, let me in that lineup. And the same thing goes for Spaceport, all the ones that got in line there for that. And Alto, holy cow, that's a big pig. That's a big pig. You put that one down on the table there, and there's a lot of people bellying up to the trough there, wanting a piece of that pig. Is that what it is? Just a taxpayer is just like that feeds the pigs and they throw them on the table and the liberal elite feast off of it while Canadians go hungry?
Well, they also dish out the teats, don't they, as patronage. Yeah. So if you do the right thing for them, you help the party, you might get a teat for a bit. You might get a space pad. Well, but it's the hypocrisy. If you're familiar, like I talk about China quite a bit, but I mean, this doesn't just apply to China. Middle East, Russia, but also China. If you're familiar with sort of the arguments that are made, political arguments, political philosophy, whatever you want to say, it really, vis-a-vis the West, it's really focused on hypocrisy and and it has been for ages, by the way. It's not a new thing. But they just look at the Western system and they look at people like Mark Carney and Louise Arbour, who the speeches they made yesterday when she was sworn in as Governor General. They listen to that where they're talking about human rights around the world and all this bollocks, and going on as if the West has like conquered all problems and now it's time to share. It's time to proselytize and convert the savages around the world to Western liberalism. They see things like that, they listen to it, and then they see things like this, and they just say the two things, what they say and what they do, are so far apart that the only valid response is laughter. Just laugh at these idiots. And that, like, the Russians they've become quite famous for doing that, and it's a little bit ironic because obviously the Russian system is so corrupt and such a disgrace. So you can right away just say, well, you're like, you know, who are you to say that? Nonetheless, this is how the non-Western world perceives us. They look at us and they see us as a set of frauds that talk shite and do things like this, and just non-stop nepotism, constant corruption, constantly telling people what to do, but you don't do it yourself. It's just, this is why the sort of, around the world, respect and admiration for the Western way of doing things has basically collapsed to nothing. Don't believe what Louise Arbour and those fools tell you. Like she said literally yesterday, she said, the whole world looks to us. You know, we have to set an example. No, they don't. The world doesn't look at us because of things like this. I can't emphasize it enough. This is why the West has lost respect around the world.
And they have no fear. They have no fear because the media doesn't hold them accountable. That's the thing. There's like I said, independents, Holly Dome, Blacklocks, ourselves, you know, Sam Coopers that do this. But the mainstream media, they won't run this story. They won't call it out. Because this,
if they run the last one when she hired her husband's cousin.
Yeah. If this was Stephen Harper's deputy there, they'd be all over it like, you know, flies on poop. But here's one that they're trotting out here, and they expect this to happen in the next few days here. Government is looking to ban social media for kids under 16. That's where they'll start, right? But we'll get to that when it comes out. Listen to Stephen Guilbeault. He's getting on every show he can get onto and talk about how his now liberals do nothing. He talks about himself, actually. Think about it. He says Trump does more for climate change than Canada does. Weren't you part of the whole government for 11 years? You suppressed our industry for what then? For what? Listen up to Steve.
With the setbacks we've experienced this year, the United States under Donald Trump is doing more to fight climate change than Canada.
Say that again?
Yeah.
No, say it again.
Loudly. Well, listen, I'm not sure because the analysis will be done, but from what I can see, and I've spoken to experts, and I was the Minister of the Environment for 4 years.
That's
our assessment.
That's good. We've heard it already.
That was a dub, by the way, if anybody's wondering. If anybody's wondering if Stephen Guilbeault suddenly sounds like a normal person.
Yeah, but that was it because it was in French.
No.
French.
Yeah, it was being dubbed. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know about that sort of rather provocative statement that he's made. I mean, ultimately, who cares? It's trivial either way. It doesn't really matter. China's the one that matters, not even like America's quite a big contributor to CO2 emissions, but it still doesn't really matter compared to China. So again, you're wasting your time.
Yep.
It's a sort of redundant question. But what is true is that the United States has done more for to bring CO2 emissions down than Canada, and that's because the United States went absolutely gung ho on natural gas.
The magic of
much
fracking.
Of fracking, yeah, which is much less polluting than other forms of energy that are still used around the world, like coal and oil, etc. But we skipped over the Carney social media thing. I just want to say, get ready for this to be a conversation about how they're going to verify that you're older than 16.
Yep.
And the answer usually to that conundrum is, you just scan your passport. Okay, so I'll just give my passport to Mark Zuckerberg then. Get ready for that conversation.
Dean Allison, this is, again, you're not going to get accountability until we change this government. Dean Allison put out that thing that he wants to do the inquiries, the Allison inquiry for COVID. He said legacy media is gone radio silent on his Allison inquiry. There's real people struggling with this. I mean, we've done quite a few stories on this, and we've shared a lot of information on this. How that there was this a branch set up in the government that were to listen to inquiries, and their biggest thing they were doing was watching Netflix, and then their orders were to dissuade people from applying. That was their best thing. And I think it was they set aside like 70 million or something like that. I mean, just from my memory here, 35 of it was used up in just administration. You can't even make this stuff up. But global, sometimes like the reporters on the ground don't get the memo, because they're falling apart. I mean, they have no money. Their stock has imploded, and they don't have like the machine in the background that CBC does. Because you're not going to see this story on CBC. But here you go. Here's a story of somebody that suffered from the COVID vaccine. Listen up here. Good on you.
Thousands of Canadians diagnosed with injuries from COVID vaccines have languished for years without support, like Lori Irving. The nurse had to be vaccinated to work, but now lives with latent autoimmune diabetes, which doctors say was caused by a COVID vaccine. It took too long to diagnose her condition in Manitoba's bogged-down health system, and she missed the 3-year deadline to apply. More than 3,500 people have sought support from Canada's beleaguered vaccine injury program, but only 252 people have made it through the tangle of red tape to get help. Shannon DuPont will tell you even that's a nightmare.
The party's 4-digit extension, please compose it now, followed by the pound sign.
They're months sometimes behind on paying me. At one point, they owed me over $15,000 just on that prescription.
Conservative MP Dean Allison announced Thursday he's hosting 4 days of testimony on Parliament Hill in September, where people can share their stories and frustrations.
I believe Canadians agree on one principle. If people have been harmed, they deserve compensation, support, transparency, and a timely assistance.
We have a responsibility, A, to recognize that they were injured, to listen to their stories, but we also have a tremendous responsibility to care for them.
The goal, they say, is that hearing from the injured, the government will be motivated to improve the program to help those who've been denied support. According to the public health.
That department there was actually instructed to turn these people away. To make it as onerous as possible. And then they have 3-year deadlines, for filing. Well, I mean, if you just chase them around in circles. I mean, now they've sealed the vaccine records for 15 years. What kind of government does that? Like Mark Carney, that's shameful. That's absolutely shameful. If you really want to be a real leader and like a protector of Canada, unseal those records, release the records. Those records belong to the Canadian people. They don't belong to the Liberal Party. If it exposes some of the Liberals as bad actors, then that's what needs to happen. You have no right to hold those records back for 15 years to protect the few at the expense of the many.
But it's also, so it's worth highlighting here is, if you cast your mind back, I know people don't like to do this in general. We're in denial, aren't we, about what happened a few years ago. But if you cast your mind back, they basically refused to offer exemptions to anyone. It was like, sometimes it was like single digits for approvals of exemptions. So people knew, they knew that it was going to affect them negatively. And they'd say, look, here's my doctor said this about my heart or whatever. Don't give me the vaccine. And they wouldn't permit it. It was like only in very, very rare circumstances. I can't remember what the final numbers were, but like insanely low, like it's an extraordinarily low success rate for people that applied for an exemption. That is, again, like, when is a reckoning going to come for that? That was obviously a gigantic failure of public health. People need to be held accountable for that, don't they? They need to be punished for that.
I have the voicemail on my phone. It was sent to me from a nurse that was on mat leave, that was on maternity leave, wasn't going back to the hospital for a year. Got a message that said, we've changed your status from maternity leave to terminated because our records show you haven't been vaccinated. We're not sure how this is going to affect your unemployment insurance. It may affect it negatively. So get vaccinated, and hung up. Why did they feel it was necessary to make that phone call to somebody that wasn't coming back to work for a year? What is the matter with these people? What is literally
also on maternity leave, therefore just had a child? Not exactly the best time to provide that horrible news.
Just unbelievable. I think the audacity, the just like that person should hang their head in shame. Just that decided, and so cheerfully too. Like I should play the call for people. I should play just how cheery they were about getting your vaccination. Like, that was just unbelievable.
But also quite a lot of, now that the sort of fog of war is cleared and the moral panic is over with COVID, quite a lot of people who are, extremely knowledgeable about this kind of thing, experts, as the Canadian press would say, they've come out and said, in retrospect, there was basically zero need whatsoever to give shots to anyone under the age of like 40 or 50 or something. No. Like a few people have said that now. Like that younger people just really, it was just...
It was a higher risk to give them the shot than it was without the shot.
Some of that did kind of leak out, didn't it, during the mania, where particularly with because there was young men were getting the heart damage, weren't they? And it's
myocarditis.
Yeah, myocarditis, and people started saying, experts started saying, maybe the risk actually outweighs the benefits. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't ever really much risk to young, not just young people, but young-ish people. You were going to suffer more from the side effects of the vaccine, even when it worked, because it was, it inflicted quite a lot of misery on people, just making them feel sick for like 3 or 4 days.
Check this out. Another one from Holly Donald Blacklocks here. It'll take 1,000 years at current construction rates to restore housing affordability for the poorest Canadians. And that's from housing advocate Marie-Josée Houle. Houle? Cabinet advisor is in her annual report to Parliament said a new supply of public and co-op housing is critical. 1,000 years. I don't even know if I take that seriously. 1,000 years. I mean, the truth of the matter is 30% of the housing cost is related to fees, like just fees, like DCC fees and all that stuff. A lot of it driven by climate agenda. That's 30% of the housing cost. That's a huge hit. And then you stress supply and demand with runaway inflation? I mean, sorry, runaway immigration? What the heck do you think happens, right? And then you allow money laundering to happen. You allow money from China to come over here, money laundering, and there's gangs washing money through BC casinos, buying properties in Vancouver. All of it's there. All of it's been like it highlighted by, you know, like not by CBC, but by likes of Sam Cooper and stuff like that. It's all there. This is all failed policy. And you know how they think they're going to fix it? More policy. Like Mark Carney is going to come in and rescue it by building containers for people. Guess what? Nobody wants a 300 square foot container. They cannot sell them in Vancouver. They cannot sell them in Toronto. The investors are stuck with them. Some of them are losing their homes because they put them up as the collateral. There's huge inventories of 300 square foot and less condos for sale in Toronto and Vancouver that they can't sell. And Mark Carney says the key to affordability is to build cubes, like small cubes, cubicle homes, like rats in a cage. That's the solution. Well, the market already says nobody wants them. Can you imagine your 2 kids and your wife living in 300 square feet? How long does that last? How long does the marriage last?
Well, I mean, there's a reason that Hong Kong, which, you know, has living arrangements like that, there's a reason it has pretty much the world's or one of the world's lowest birth rates. It's not really conducive to family formation, is it?
It's ridiculous. And then this is what they're doing. Now listen to here. Listen to this. Listen to this. Oh my God.
400,000 talented Indians study in Canada. That is twice the number in the United States. It is 4 times the number in the United Kingdom. These students, these connections, deepen our ties. And so we're collaborating to build on those strengths. We've launched the new Canada-India Talent and Innovation Strategy with 13 new partnerships to deepen our ties in education. And this includes collaborations involving McGill, the University of Toronto, University of British Columbia, to work across artificial intelligence, health sciences, and digital architecture.
So no room for Canadian kids that are getting turned away because the school's full. 400,000 Indian students flooding Canada on visas, working at Tim Hortons and that, getting some cheap labor for Tim's.
Well, it's not just that. It's also at the higher end of society or whatever, where there's more competition for family homes, things like that.
Everything,
for example,
everything. Healthcare, everything.
and graduate jobs as well.
Well, listen to this. We've talked about this in the past. Fox News finally doing the story. Here's Kayleigh McEnany here on what we showed you this, probably 6 months ago, about the fake diplomas or degrees farms in India. Listen to this.
What is happening to our H-1B visa program? Take a look at this. The Department of Labor processed nearly 7 million visa holders since 2015. Over 70% came from India and nearly 12% from China. And when you zoom in on this map you're looking at, you can see where most are being hired. The dark red spots show a high density of H-1B visa holders. And now we're learning more about the fraud within the program. One former official tells Newsweek that up to 90% of applications, 90% from India, contain fraudulent documents or involve unqualified applicants. And finance law enforcement in India claim it has uncovered a network of universities that produce fake degrees which were possibly used to obtain these high-skilled H-1B visas, including one school which allegedly stole over 36,000 fake degrees, sold, I should say. It cost as little as $1,400 for one of them.
That's good enough. You get the idea. We showed you like the images of it. I can't remember, it was a couple months ago, where they actually had boxes of them. They were just selling these degrees. And this is not only happening there, it's actually happening in Ontario. I think it was Global that did the story. There's actually trucking outfits that sell you a commercial trucking license without, having to worry about, doing, like the course, right? Because why would you want to do that, right? You can actually buy it, fast track yourself, pay a third of the money and fast track yourself and get on the road with that 50-ton weapon and put, Canadians at risk, Canadian families at risk.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just people are going on about India in the comments, and this is about India, I guess. But the other country there, China, that's listed. I mean, it's also it's infamous for that kind of thing in China as well. And you were talking about the Vancouver real estate being manipulated and all that, and Sam Cooper. One of the things Sam Cooper talks about, and other people who've looked at this scandal, particularly in BC, is the way that like triad members, like gangsters and Communist Party officials, and all the like very, very naughty boys, very bad people, how they just fabricated documents, and they even hacked into the Hong Kong Commission, Canadian-run commission in Hong Kong. They like hacked into the system and removed their previous criminal convictions from the system, so that when the person applied for refugee status or whatever, it was like, oh, okay, clean. You've not been in jail for anything. I mean, this has been happening for so long. These countries, India and China, are just like better at this than a lot of other ones, and they're also bigger. But a lot of these countries around the world have been scamming Western immigration systems and beyond other aspects of the Western governments for a very long time. For a very, very long time. This goes back decades.
I mean, we had the Indian ambassador on, I think it was on CBC, saying that they've got 40 million Indians ready to come over to Canada to fill out our population needs. And we had the new Governor General, I don't think I have it in the load later, saying that, Canada has an obligation because we have, I think, what would she say, 20% of the water and all this land, and we have an obligation to open the doors. Open the doors.
Imagine what kind of person do you have to be to think that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I reiterate, I say again, where she was a couple of 1,000 feet away from homeless, drug-addicted Canadians who, God bless them, are probably going to die soon. The very short lifespans, living in total misery. And while she was stood there, she decided to talk about that bollocks. How the world is owed something from Canada. I used the word delinquent earlier. There is no other way to describe that philosophy. And somebody like Mary, keep thinking of Mary Simon, my beloved Mary Simon, Louise Arbour. There is no other way to describe somebody like that other than delinquent. Just like a deadbeat mother or something who doesn't look after her own children.
There's the truths we just showed you. Truths that the Canadian media won't show you, and they'll tell you that you're racist for even bringing it up. But that's the harsh reality. That's the reality of the situation. There's a degree farm being sold. There's people in Canada that are unqualified. Some of them as doctors, likely, in Canada with a purchased degree.
Yeah.
And in here, the government, instead of like saying, hey, we need to crack down, we need to do this, we need to make sure Canadians are looked after, and make sure that there's a healthcare system for Canadians. Listen to this. If you're not mad yet, this should set you over the edge.
How is the government's new talent attraction strategy positioning Canada to compete for the world's best and brightest?
So the International Talent Strategy is really a set of actions that are kind of designed to facilitate and retain highly skilled immigrants as a complement to the domestic workforce. And in this case, kind of the overarching objective is to really increase that share of highly skilled or top talent within that reduced overall immigration envelope to support areas like STEM and AI, infrastructure, major projects, all the things I outlined in my opening remarks. So in terms of what we've done so far, in terms of enhancing that, we have tried to ensure that all of those international talent strategy occupations are included in express entry categories. And that means that the way that we do selection prioritizes those key occupations. We've also introduced 14-day processing for PhD students and their families. and facilitated on an expedited basis the first wave of research chairs, postdocs, and PhD students participating in Global Impact Plus, that research initiative that is being currently led by ISED. We're also preparing to launch a targeted advertising campaign for internationally, so that people are aware of what's available in Canada, and there can be those closer links to the great life here, the opportunities here, and links into employers as well.
$1.7 billion. Well, Canadians suffer. I mean, maybe if you can't beat them, join them. So maybe write a letter to, or figure out how to get one of those diplomas. Why go to school? Figure out how to get one of those degrees. Send them the $1,200, and just maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you just need to join it and then just make it a complete farce. And everybody has a degree. I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. No, I'm a doctor. No, I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor.
You went to Harvard. You went to Harvard.
I got a Harvard degree. I got Harvard, Yale, and Oxford. I got you beat. I got the trifecta.
Which one do you prefer? I can give you any one.
I got a trucking
That's
license.
going to be the future of job interviews.
I've got a trucking license. I voted in California 19 times, and I voted in the other states like 75 times. So I've been voting like crazy. Like, you know what I mean? And if you're, the Republicans whining about all the cheating, well, you just can't beat them, join them. You're like stuffing the ballot box. Just bring your own truckload. Just like, somebody brings a box and dumps it into the thing. Well, just back the truck up and just dump it in and say, there you go. Now that we're all cheating. Because I don't know. Like,
but it's also like they make it seem like this is completely essential if you want to have a functional or a wealthy country at all. Like if you want the lights to be on, basically, we must have infinity immigration. And yet, how do they explain other countries around the world? Like Japan is the one that comes to mind. Obviously, the Japanese have, they've allowed a certain amount of immigration, but it's like a drop in the water compared to a country like Canada. How does Japan leave the lights on or keep the lights on? How is Japan functional in any way? And then I guess you have to ask yourself, who would you rather have running your country? People like her, or some hard-nosed dork in Japan who is an expert in policy and just says, nah, that wouldn't work. I think I'll take the Japanese dork, please.
I like James's idea. I'm going to be a brain surgeon, but I only offer my services to Liberal Party members. Because I want to make
James
sure.
Also asked if we were having beer because he heard the thing open. That was on the Twitter video. So it was maybe somebody at the committee's just like, oh, was it you?
It was
I think
me.
it was on the. Oh, it was you, right.
I opened the carbonated water.
Well, there you go. I thought it was them. I thought it was they were slurping to try and get through that miserable committee.
If we actually played a drinking game on every fraud or potential fraud on the show, we would never finish the show. We'd probably be passed out. Another one from Hollywood on Blacklocks. Young Canadians respect the military, although few want to actually enlist. We had Brian Isted on a couple times now. And that's from in-house Department of National Defense and Research. Well, why don't you get them some proper equipment? Cabinet is on a recruitment drive, and they're actually hiring mercenaries right now. And we talked to, go watch that interview with Brian Isted. You got to watch it. It's absolutely eye-opening, mind-jarring. And he said that, when you apply, it takes forever to get in. That was one of the reasons that people just get frustrated. But they seem to fast-track mercenaries, though. They've only been in the country 3 months, and they're all fast-tracked, and they're in the military fighting each other, fighting class wars with each other. Whereas he said some Canadians are taking 18 months, and they just say they don't want to. It takes too long. They found a job, and then just moved on. Isn't that weird? There's something wrong with that, right? Something wrong.
Sorry, someone's talking about being racist to Japanese people or something. Like,
what?
Sometimes I look at what's going on in the comments and it's just like, what the hell are they talking about? It doesn't make any sense.
Something about Japanese eating dogs? What are you talking about? Some people are crazed. Anyway, I think you're looking for the CBC. CBC reports that Canada is now buying 72 fighter jets from Sweden. I don't know, like hand-wringing for 15 years about the F-35s. Just unbelievable.
Well, the latest word on the street is that it's going to be a mixed fleet with more Gripens than F-35s. I mean, that would be crackers, wouldn't it? That would just be so
The
nuts.
Gripens will be the decoys, right? They shoot those down and we'll use these F-35.
But it's also, you know, getting the Gripens, it's like, it just makes it all seem like it's role play. The Canadian, you know, the Liberals, the government looks at the military, the Canadian military, as a form of role play. It's not actually about war. It's not actually about trying to shoot down enemy planes or enemy missiles or killing your enemies. It's not about things like that. It's all about appearances, and it's all about things like short-term international relations. Like, oh, we don't like the Americans today, but we do like Europe, so we're going to buy their inferior jets. But at the bottom, again, it's like I said, like deep in the minds of these people that run Canada, that rule this country, deep down at the 100th layer of brain tissue or whatever, is the comfortable knowledge that the United States, aka Daddy, will take care of it. Like a trust fund kid who is in deep trouble somewhere. They've wrecked a car that doesn't belong to them or something like that. They're on the hook for loads of money. Deep down, that trust fund kid knows, like, Daddy's going to fix this. It's okay. It's like, I'll be safe. I'm not going to go to debtor's prison here. I'm fine. And Canada's like that sort of spoiled brat that knows that America will protect us at the end of the day. So we can afford to role play with our military. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually have to be effective.
I was going to play this clip, but I won't because in the interest of time, we got quite a few things left to do here, and I got some exciting stuff near the end here. But we had it yesterday. Anyway, Canada's top soldier says teaches strategy there. Communist China, Canada's #1 threat. China helping Russia in the Arctic. U.S. is Canada's security guarantor. I mean, it's all pretty basic there. But this one here I wanted to get to. Listen to this. As the Liberals have all kinds of money for 13 VPs at Alto and boondoggles, $90 billion boondoggles for Alto, and then $200 million for spaceport. But look, they're just looking at the seniors as they start to age up. Parliament spends more than $14 billion a year on old age security for pensioners with household incomes over $60K. What does $60K get you these days? A federally funded research group has petitioned cabinet to tighten income testing for seniors. So that means, are you listening, old man, old lady? They're coming for your money. They're coming for your money. Are you listening, old man? Elbows up. They say that payments to pensioners with incomes over 60 grand cost $14.5 billion. Beneficiaries, 1.7 million of them, including 328 that make over 100K. And so they're figuring out ways to recover some of that old age security. It's a nice name, isn't it? Take into consideration the old age security recovery tax. Isn't that nice? The old age security recovery tax. That means all those years you worked, old man, you have too much. We have to give some. The Alto executives are looking for, $600,000 plus a year, and plus bonuses. And you making 60 grand a year. Time to cough some of that up. Because you know what? If we get it down lower, you're going to get that GST credit, right? So thank us later.
And you can come and kiss the ring. So thank you.
Some crumbs for you. Again, listen to the nice name. Ready? What is that? The old age security recovery tax. Doesn't that sound nice? It's not tax you're paying. It's an old age.
I'm not trying to sound like it's a tax to help people in old age.
Yeah. It's time to change old age security thresholds. And that's from the Generation Squeeze. Nice. Yeah, there you go. And they're worried because pensioners will comprise a fifth of the population. So how do you get money out of the old people's hands? Eh? Elbows up. And if you think that's bad enough, if you think that's not enough tax to pay, if you listen to Avi Lewis, not only does he want you to pay some Canadian tax, he wants you to pay a global tax. These are the people you want to elect. Listen to this. Listen to this.
There was another thing she said that was striking as well. She called out the destabilizing impact of inequality on society. And it brought to mind this very recent research from Thomas Piketty, the academic who really set the global standard for mapping inequality globally, who brought out a massive new study on how to manage, like how to sustain democracy on planet Earth and prevent the rise of authoritarianism by dealing with extreme wealth inequality within planetary boundaries. And this research suggested that we need a global wealth tax. We need global income taxes to transfer resources from north to south, to deal with a climate breakdown, and to deal with the fact that very few people control most of the wealth on Earth. The fact that the Governor General was citing the destabilizing effects of extreme inequality in her inaugural speech. I mean, the Prime Minister, I was sitting not far from the Prime Minister. He was sitting not far from Louise Arbour. I hope this message is getting through.
Who collects this global tax? I mean, that's
people
what
like Avi Lewis.
That's what the globalists want. Mark Carney is part of that. That's that speech in Davos. If you go back and listen to it, now listen to it with a global bent on, and it's going to make a lot more sense to you. That's why the UN is
talking about trust fund kids and people who spoiled people. What is he if not that? And lo and behold, he has absolutely no idea about the value of money or the value of work or precariousness, to use a word that they tend to enjoy. And he cites that study from Thomas Piketty, the French left-wing activist / economist, which is in the process now of being laughed at to the point of exhaustion. Every serious economist, every serious person on this planet is laughing at what he's just put out, talking about a global tax and sending money to the global south, like the third world, poorer countries around the world. Just the very fact that they think that that's even something worth talking about rather than just laughing at tells you that maybe, he's not all there in the head.
Well, that's what GFANS was all about, and that's what also the Net Zero Alliance was all about, and that's what the giving money to the UN was part of that. And that's when the Americans said, we're not funding this anymore, that they started losing their mind, because without the Americans, it's really, who's going to fund it? Maybe Avi will get you to fund it. I mean, you got to take your vote serious. You got to take it serious. You have to absolutely take your vote serious.
And yet, the NDP in, what was it, Abacus, I think, one of the latest polls? Abacus up to 11, NDP up to 11%, which is the best that they've been performing at since Jagmeet Singh was turfed. So I don't know. I mean, we've talked a lot about how people are being radicalized. Usually when people hear that term, they think, oh yeah, those neo-Nazis or something like that. No, it's people like him. Predominantly it's people in places like the US and Canada and around the West who have not launched. They haven't had a chance to accrue capital and to invest and save and buy property, or even in some cases rent property. Pierre Poilievre talks about this demographic a lot, like people in their 30s living in their parents' basement or whatever. That's usually how he illustrates it. There's quite a lot of those people knocking about in the West, and they're becoming very, very radicalized. And more than anything, they're going over to this sort of garbage, which is just sort of like crypto communism. It's a problem. It's absolutely something to keep an eye on. And it just gives you another idea of how garbage the CBC is, and the media in this country in general, because the only radicalization they ever want to talk about is some utter maniac, some freak that's been reading Mein Kampf or something like that and posts something on Facebook. And it's like, oh, the radicalization among boys and men in Canada. Rather than look at this. Like, this is absolute craziness. This is like a really low grade, like intellectually low grade version of communism. And we know how that ended last time.
And you gotta like, truth matters, and that's part of the point of this show. Truth matters, and if you have people that tell lies constantly and they just do it so they get power, and they'll tell you whatever you want to hear. Here's one here in the United States: Democrat James Tallarico there, rebranding himself as a Texas barbecue lover after he's was running campaigns on being a vegan and that. Like these people will do anything, right? They will literally do anything. Do you want these type of people? Do you want these type of people?
Well, look at Mark Carney. Look at our own. Obviously, this guy's a tactless idiot that doesn't know how to do PR. But look at Mark Carney, someone who does know how to do PR. He built his whole sort of brand on left environmental radicalism. Yep. All of a sudden now he's like Mr. Reasonable. Stephen Gilboa's walking away from him like he's a leper. That's now Mark Carney. That's the Liberal Party. Like, oh yeah, we're going to build oil. We're going to expand our oil sector, etc., etc. We're going to do it responsibly with zero emissions oil or decarbonized oil. Like, yeah, there's a lot of these switcheroos going on right now. Just some of them are more competent than others, and obviously this blog is just a fool, isn't he? So we can laugh at it, but that ignores the fact that the more skilled operators are kind of getting away with it.
Just letting you know that the SpaceX IPO is, I've had quite a few people reach out to me. SpaceX IPO is this Friday, and Tesla is, like part of that as well, I guess, in a way, because that's Elon Musk's deal. But here's Tesla now, best-selling car in South Korea. And it's none other than the Tesla Model Y. I see them all over the place now. It's crazy. And SpaceX, a lot of people will say so many disparaging things about Elon Musk and how he treats people. And supposedly, I was golfing with somebody once, and she says, Elon Musk is a horrible person. I'm like, based on what? He's like evil to his staff, and he's evil to his kids, and he's evil. I said, said who? I said, how many kids does he have? She said, well, I don't know. I said, well, how do you know he's evil to his kids and his staff? Well, I don't know. Exactly. But here's some reality. SpaceX IPO about to this 27-year-old ship engineer. She's only worked there for a couple of years. 27 years old. She's going to become a millionaire. So SpaceX gives stock to everybody, and they allow you to use your paycheck to buy more of it. And she went all in and spent 10% of her check, and now it's going to IPO, and she's going to be in the money. And then here's
you'd be daft not to accept that offer, wouldn't you? Like, presumably they were well aware that an IPO was forthcoming as well, even before that was common knowledge. So you'd be an utter plonker not to go in on that.
And here's Juan Hernandez. He is a welder, just a welder. Like, most companies would never give anything to the blue collar staff on, you know what I mean? Like, the executive team, like Alto. I'm guarantee the benefits at Alto don't go further down than the C-suite there, like most of the staff there. But here's Juan here, a welder making $28 an hour, has received $10,000 worth of company stock. Now it's worth about $1 million. Not bad for Juan, eh?
This is like, people are complaining about Elon Musk all the time, but this is the sort of dream of capitalism. This is what it was supposed to look like. Do
you know why they don't want to unionize? Like, they pushed in Germany to get them unionized, and how much, who doesn't want to unionize? Tesla staff. Like, they don't want to unionize because of this, right? Because they do better than the unions.
And unions just introduce a layer of corruption and mediocrity anyway, don't they? All of a sudden you've got to hand over your negotiation ability to some professional whiner.
Apple did its big event. It introduced Siri AI, and the initial reaction is more of the same. More of the same. As Apple Siri tries to, or big Siri AI tries to get out of the dunce, take off its dunce cap, along with Alexa. Not so much. Not so much.
Although Apple, what they do well, and if you look at their market cap, they're still an absolute behemoth, aren't they?
But Siri is like, you can't even use it to call somebody. You're just like, call
Yeah,
Ian. Calling Fred. You're just like, okay.
and that little globe thing, like they need to sort it all out. The visuals and everything. It's very un-Apple like, isn't it?
You know what it reminds me of? The paperclip guy off of Microsoft from Microsoft back when what was it
Word.
called? I can't remember what it was, and the guy popped up and he was totally useless. The paperclip.
Yeah, I absolutely despised it. It was probably like my first true loathing that I felt for anything or anyone. Mr. Paperclip.
You say Israel is like someone got the best spy networks, and obviously not. Sometimes maybe too good. They got caught spying on the Pentagon, and that's not going over that well. I was going to play the clip, but we won't. But just to let you know, but that's probably a bad idea. But
You say that, but I mean, Israel stole extremely sensitive secrets from the United States. I mean, probably on more than one occasion, but very famously, when was it? The 80s, I think, or 90s, or whatever it was. You know, they stole like nuclear secrets.
Yeah.
And the guy that did it went back to Israel and was hailed a hero and given a hero's welcome.
Yeah.
And yet, what's happened over the last 40 years or so in Israel-US relations? They've just become warmer and warmer to the point that now they're almost at their very peak. So you're saying don't do that. What are the consequences? What are the consequences? Apparently the consequences are you have a closer relationship with the United States. Oh, well, better get spying then.
Terrible event happened in Belfast. Terrible. Here's Rupert Lowe on. We're not going to show it to you. I mean, you can go find it on the internet. It's all over the internet. But here's Rupert Lowe.
Good morning, everybody. I've just watched the most horrific footage from Northern Ireland, from Belfast, of one man on top of another with a knife, obviously screaming and shouting. Some patriots effectively attempted to intervene. I don't know what has happened to the victim, but it didn't look good. I now call for the police with full transparency to disclose the ethnicity and immigration status of the person who perpetrated the attack. This is a disappointingly growing trend which is affecting all of us. It stems from immigration, largely. It stems from the fact that there's a whole industry of people who have made vast amounts of money propagating an industry called the human rights industry, which basically has fed off the back of the legal complexities surrounding human rights law. Those are people like Keir Starmer, Lord Hermer, a whole raft of people who I think put their own interests above those of the safety of the British people. And it's time we got some honesty from the police force, who are paid for the British taxpayer, paid for by the British taxpayer. They're supposed to serve the British taxpayer, and they're supposed to keep us all safe. We can quite clearly see with the recent tragic death of Henry Novak, we can see two-tier policing. And now I think I call for total transparency.
That's good.
If you have transparency, you have truth.
You have truth, and I think that's like the whole theme of this show is about truth, and truth is starting to come through in spades, and it's bubbling to the surface. And you can help us fan the flames of truth with spreading this newscast far and wide, as far as you can, bringing people to it, because we need to stop with the narratives. These institutions that he's talking about in the UK. It's the same thing happening here. Like our institutions, our media institution that we pay for, it's our tax dollars paying for it, does not serve the interests of the Canadian public. It serves the interests of a ruling party. And you can say that for many things. Like even the Bank of Canada, who does it serve right now? Does it serve the interests of Canada, or does it serve a party? Some of these institutions have been completely compromised by a party. And good on WestJet. Good on WestJet for pushing back and saying, we don't want none of your money. Just get out of the way. Stop with this corporate welfare and then all the strings that are attached to it, so that we're beholding to a liberal party. It's like they want to put their tentacles into everything. It's just like, and they use taxpayer dollars to gain power and have you beholding to them. That's what it is. It's like that. And Pierre Poilievre highlighted that, I think, about a year ago. He said that that's their thing. Weaken the industry. That's what they did to media. We pulled up the chart, of course. Weaken the industry and then hand out crumbs to the chosen few, right? And then slop the trough of the CBC.
Big trough sloppers, aren't they?
And then here's the Northern Ireland Justice Minister, Naomi Long, on this as well.
Not to allow themselves to be used and abused in that way, to remain calm, to allow the police to do their work in terms of their investigation, and to allow the justice system to hold the individual responsible to account for what was a shockingly barbaric attack on our streets.
That's good. That's good. I think they're good. They have a powder keg on their hands. They literally have a powder keg on their hands. And the more they lie to the public, the worse it gets. Like, they literally have a powder keg on their hands.
The word of the day is delinquent. And here we have 5 delinquents stood at microphones trying to tell the peasants not to react too strongly to the mistakes that they, the rulers, have made. It's like, but at no point do they say that. Yeah, look, we know we screwed up. We know we've let in people into this country that really shouldn't even be on this planet, never mind in this country, where we will be sorry for the rest of our lives. We're going to come round the streets of Belfast and we're going to kiss your feet and beg for your forgiveness. We're so sorry for doing this to you. We are such idiots. We're such delinquents.
Resign.
We're so irresponsible. But instead of doing that, they just say, don't you go on social media and watch that video and go out there and protest. Don't do that. It's like, who do you think you are? Why do you think you can lecture anyone on anything? You can't even maintain basic peace in an otherwise quite peaceful country like the United Kingdom. You can't even do it. You've introduced this chaos from the third world. People from Sudan. I mean, what is going on here? Well, why are these people in the country anyway? Why are they not being monitored if they're obviously nuts or criminally inclined? The failures, the list just goes on and on forever. And then they get up there and they lecture people not to go and protest about it. That's blowback for your own failures. You can't just, you can't kick the dog over and over and over again and then be bitten by the dog and shout at the bloody dog. Why do you think the dog's biting you exactly? Have you not figured out cause and effect, you morons? But, you talked about Canada before this. This happens to have been in Northern Ireland. It could have literally been anywhere in the Western world. This could have happened in Germany. This could have happened in France. This could have happened in Vancouver. This could have happened anywhere in the Western world because we are run by the same set of delinquents. And Louise Arbour, sorry to pick on you, you strange woman, but Louise Arbour is just a perfect example of that stupid class of delinquents that has brought chaos to the Western world and yet still blames the victims of that chaos for any sort of protests, any sort of reaction. It's their fault.
There will be protests. Keir Starmer, if you have
and the people who protest will be jailed, punished.
Yeah. Keir Starmer, if you have any kind of like shame bone, tender your resignation. We won't show you the clip. I mean, you can go find it if you need to see it. But they
and I wouldn't. I wouldn't watch it.
Show it. We're not going to show it. It's literally trying to behead this person. And luckily, the people intervened. I'm not sure what the status, and I'm not sure what the status of this person is at this point, but it's pretty bad.
But just what in God's name? I mean, this kind of thing does indeed happen in certain, certain particularly Islamic countries, which is what Sudan mostly is. Sudan's also on a civil war, by the way, so there's a lot of people familiar with extraordinary levels of violence. Probably not a great idea to invite people like that into your society. But, this does happen from time to time in places like Yemen, Sudan, Libya, and so on, where people are beheaded. It's a sort of, I was going to say a cultural thing, but that's a grave insult to Islam and people in the Middle East and North Africa. But it is, it's like a negative cultural facet of certain particularly Islamic societies. And what else can be said? Also in sub-Saharan African societies as well, it happened. But this is a clear importation of a barbaric foreign practice. It's clearly the fault of the state. But then the representatives of the state blame the people for reacting to it. It's just beyond belief, isn't it? It's absolutely beyond belief.
And the media, a big part of it as well. The media, instead of like being the voice of the people, the media is the voice of power. Defund the media, unfollow them wherever you can, unfollow them, and post this show underneath all their crap and say, come here for the truth, because they don't want to tell you the truth. Tomorrow, Jasmine Lane on, and then on Thursday, Sam Cooper, and then on Friday, Aaron Pete. And we got our really big salute here. We got our really big salute, and it's a different kind of salute, so get ready for something a little different. This salute is a kind of a backhanded salute, because it's we're saluting the astronaut for putting Justin Trudeau where he needs to be. Listen, let's watch this first clip here of Katy Perry here and poor Justy. That's good. Now put the next one on. That one's even better. You can turn the sound off because we don't. Well, you can leave it on. Poor Justin, just nobody even wants an autograph from him. It's all about Katy Perry as he stands there like he's her bodyguard or something. Nobody.
That's like a flex, isn't it, from him and his like fake feminism, where it's like, I thought I should step back and put her forward, prioritize her. She needed the attention, not me. That's how you explain it, isn't it? I mean, that's what
the reality of the situation.
People say.
Probably most of the people didn't even know who he was. But
people are going on about Islam saying, because of what I said about like it would be an insult to Islam. I mean, I get what you're saying, but Islam is, believe it or not, Islam is a lot more than that kind of thing. There's someone, one of the commenters on here is called Ibn Khaldun. That's also Islam. It's not just machetes and heads coming off. Like it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Well, this day in history, the big day is Jacques Cartier sailed into the St. Lawrence in 1534. The French explorer claims the region for France. And part of the reason we have Quebec.
Sorry, I'm lost here. Where are we? Oh, Jacques Cartier.
Jacques Cartier? Is he the guy that made the fancy jewelry, no? Jacques Cartier? Cartier?
Yeah, he's kind of interesting. I'm more of a Champlain man myself.
Champlain?
He's more interesting. Yeah.
But I know you're going to be able to do it because Champlain's voice is very close to Donald Duck. Donald Duck debuted in 1934 in Disney's Wise Little Hen. Let's hear your Donald Duck.
I can't even remember Donald Duck. I'm getting him mixed up with Daffy Duck. That's Donald, is it? Right.
That's Donald.
I mean, you obviously do it better than me. Can you do a mashup, a Champagne Donald Duck mashup?
Nope. I don't know how you break from one to the other. I might have told
Yeah,
me.
I like I'm more of a Daffy guy though. I think Daffy Duck looks cooler. His color scheme is cooler, like black and orange.
What was your favorite character on Looney Tunes? That's what we have in, I think, Parliament right now, the Looney Tunes.
Is Wile E. Coyote from the set? Is that?
Yeah, that's part of the
he's
Looney
a Looney
Tunes.
Tune. Yeah, I would say Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Yeah, it's always a funny one.
Yeah. I always liked Foghorn Leghorn, the big chicken. Daffy Duck and the big chicken. Sylvester as well.
Yeah.
Sylvester the cat.
Needs a speech therapist though, doesn't he?
Yeah. And Pepe Le Pew. That's Melanie Jolie, Pepe Le Pew. Pepe Le Pew. And here's your hero here. The Iron Lady herself. Margaret Thatcher wins a landslide re-election. bolstered by the Falklands victory in 1983.
Yes, well, I mean, not bolstered by it, but a direct result of it. She was on the way out until that happened. But the thing is, I'm not a particular fan of Margaret Thatcher. I don't think that what she did to Britain's economy and society, like culturally and economically, I'm not convinced that it's had any positive long-term effects, frankly, and that's my view. But when it comes to the Falkland Islands, what can I say? All I can do is give her 100% maximum credit. She was pretty much the only person in the British establishment that would have had the cojones to do what she did. And it needed to be done. Talk about Judgment Day and justice, cosmic justice. Like a basically fascist dictatorship in Argentina try to steal some land that has never belonged to them, that they have absolutely no right to whatsoever, no claim on at all, other than proximity. That's their only claim is proximity. And she just said, no, piss off. That's our land. We're having it back. Whereas a lot of other people were saying, nah, just give it to them. Like, it's just a load of penguins. Like, who cares about the Falkland Islands? But she did the right thing there.
Lots of people on the Looney Tunes. That's cool, hey? Somebody talking about Foghorn Leghorn. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. I say, boy. There you go. You know what series I've been watching lately? Because I don't like to watch a lot of TV other than old TV. I've been watching the original Star Trek series. It's only 3 seasons. But, that was shot in the beginning of 1967. And, some of the tech in there, pretty wild that they called that. Like a lot of that stuff, other than the transporter. A lot of that stuff is like the communicator.
Yeah, doors, even doors that open when they see you coming.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Pretty
and
impressive.
The screen, like how they do they have like FaceTime.
They had a lot of FaceTime for sure. Took a while for Face, but they did a lot of FaceTime, right? And the big screen, yeah. Put it on screen. On screen.
Yeah, on screen.
And
you gotta have Picard, haven't you, doing it for it to really work.
And then in the next generation, Picard, as you say, a lot of that stuff is already happening too, especially AI, because computer.
Yeah. No, totally, because it's like I actually can't remember who it was now, but somebody said that AI is basically just we've created a way to we've created a means for computers to tell us what they've seen and what they're doing. Like they can actually communicate what they can, because they've always been able to process things extremely fast, like compared to a human brain, but they've never really been able to communicate that to us. And AI in many ways is just exactly that. They have the ability now to tell us what's going on, what they're doing.
I think the biggest jump of all is AI gives us the ability to talk to computers instead of having to learn a language. Do you know what I mean? Like we can speak in English to AI as opposed to having to code with a bunch of bits and, you know what I mean, like strings of code, which, it's only available to the select few. But AI gives us the ability for everybody to access the power of a computer and the knowledge that's inside there.
Yeah.
The next step will be the personal assistant that's always on for you, that remembers everything, your personal confidant, everything. And that's the scary one, if they have access, like you said, to your brain, to access to your personal confidant that you use as your everyday thing.
Yeah. They call that agentic AI, don't they? Like having an agent of your own. But I've remembered now, I can't remember the quote, but I can remember the context of that quote. It was talking about espionage, so spying, and how AI has helped with spying, because you can accumulate masses of raw data. Like, for example, traffic cameras. You can hack in as a spy, hack into traffic cameras in the city of Ottawa or something like that, and you can accumulate so much data. But obviously, the computer can't. In the past, the computer couldn't tell you what it was seeing or find patterns really, and you couldn't really do it, except over a very long time. But now you can just say, look for a person that a person who's driving in an unorthodox fashion or something like that, or somebody who's carrying a suitcase, and is wearing a black jacket. And the AI now can like isolate that in minutes or seconds even. So yeah, I mean, it's like the computer now, that's information that it's basically always been able to process, but now it can sort of tell us about it, can't it? Which is magnificent.
Damn it, Jim. Somebody's quoting there from Star Trek. Born today, 1672. Peter the Great. Maybe some people didn't think so, but hey.
Yeah, well, he's got a city named after him still, hasn't he?
Yeah. And then obviously Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens, he authored many legendary books, right? Including Christmas Carol. You got a favorite Dickens?
David Copperfield definitely is my favorite Dickens novel. I mean, A Tale of Two Cities is all right, but I think it's a little bit too melodramatic and ridiculous. But David Copperfield is like bang on.
Yeah, and I think that's our show, right? Again, tomorrow, Jasmine Lane.
Jazzy Lane.
Yeah. And then Sam Cooper on Thursday. Aaron Pete on Friday. That's a big lineup. And Ian and I are going to take off again. What did I say? What did I say? What did I say? What did I say? We're gonna be off the 22nd to the 26th. Ian's getting his hair cut, and I'm gonna go on a United States road trip. See if they let me down there. See how terrible it is down there. And I'm gonna do a Tesla road trip, and I'll share all this stuff down there. And I mapped it out. And when I asked AI to help me map my thing out, I said maximize In-N-Out Burger. I haven't shared that with my wife yet, but hey.
So you're trapped. You've restricted yourself to the Western states then.
Maximize A&I. My favorite Dickens is Oliver Twist, because I think we're living in an Oliver Twist one, right? More, please.
Oliver Twist is an amazingly dark novel. I can't believe that it's been turned into some sort of like sanitized kids show. It's really not. It's spectacularly dark and grim. It's probably his darkest novel.
It's very suitable for today, though. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like the masses are there with their bowl and asking for more, and not so much. There's more for the alto execs. Not so much for you, though.
Great Expectations. Somebody mentions, yeah. That's
I'm not going to Seattle or Portland. I'm not going to one of those two. I'm actually gonna go down, I think, through Spokane and then swing east and go in through the Idaho. And I was like going to the gas station there alone. I don't need gas, and saying, "Where are we at?" And they're just like, "Idaho." And I say, "Oh, don't be so hard on yourself." That's a bad Idaho joke, eh? And then down, I think as far south as Salt Lake City, and then swing back up there in through Nevada.
Get yourself to Burns, Oregon. I've been there.
Bend, Oregon? Is that what you said?
Burns. I went to Burns, Oregon. And,
did you tell them that the town was named after you? Is that what you said?
I did indeed. And
were they buying
I went to a hotel and she was like, "What's your name?" And I was like, "Ian Burns." Get it? And she was just like totally deadpan, just like, "Ian Burns, okay. There's your room."
You should have said
like,
Burns.
Come on, honey. How many times does this happen?
You should have said Burns. Ian Burns.
Yeah, I should have done. I mean, I think I did repeat it. I tried. I really tried. It was just no. It was no sale. No sale.
Bend, Oregon. Yeah, I've been there many times. Love Bend.
I've been to Bend, yeah. Bend is a little bit like Kelowna. It's like the Okanagan, isn't it? Like the way it looks. Bend's kind of cool. The whole area is like the Okanagan.
I stayed in a campsite there. We had a toy hauler, and I had the dirt bikes in the back. And I thought I had a nice rig. I had an F350 toy hauler. Thought it was a nice rig. Pulled in there, and that campground was mostly like $1 million plus motorhomes. When they pulled in, and leveled down, everything popped out and everything, you know what I mean? The dishes went up and all that. It's just like, all right. All right then.
Yosemite, when I stayed in one of the campgrounds in Yosemite, and it was full of that sort of thing. Like, just the most ridiculous vehicles you've ever seen, you know, like probably worth more than a Vancouver detached home, driving around up the mountains in California. I mean, I just don't understand. Why would you need that much luxury? It's like, well, I don't know, whatever.
Oregon I rode the coastline there on a dirt bike. It's pretty wild. Like, I think there's about 40 miles of coastline there that you can ride on. Pretty wild. That's the live weather shot there in Kelowna there. Traffic moving, and it's got like a rainy day. It's been about a rainy week here, but no wheelies for me. But yeah, that's our show. We're back tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PST. Bring some friends. And I'm back at 1 o'clock, I believe. 1 o'clock, right?
No, sorry, Jim, it's 2 p.m.
I'm back at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Correction there. 2 p.m. with Renee Merrifield and Beyond the Ballot. And Ian and I will be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. PST. We're here every weekday morning, 9 a.m. PST, trying to bring truth to Canada. And like I said, Judgment Day, truth fights back against lies and deception. And the truth is getting out there. So, and I think there was a message of hope delivered against, I think that's what he needs to keep doing. Push the message of hope against the message of fear and anxiety. And then people can choose, right? And just tell people that are trying to, I think Rupert Lowe said it, when they come at you with their nonsense, racism, massage, all those stupid isms, just say, I don't care. I want to make sure my family is protected. I want to make sure that there's prosperity for all. That's what we want. That's it. Simple stuff. What would Jesus?
Basics.
I guess that's the answer, is just say, what would Jesus do? Now shut up and get out of my way. All right. Cheers. Thanks for watching The Really Big Show on Now Media.